Chapter 321. Lin Feng didn't expect Yang Luqing to be so straightforward. He was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, "Since Mr. Yang is so generous, it would be impolite for me to refuse." Of course, even if Yang Luqing didn't give him anything, as long as Yang Rui was willing to join Qingfeng College, Lin Feng would arrange for her to be in the best class. After all, Yang Rui was a rare genius. If she was nurtured well, she might become the second snowflake supremacy. However, if Lin Feng really said that, Yang Luqing might not believe him, and she would be terrified. Sometimes, people liked to complicate things when it was clearly something that could be done according to the normal process. It could be considered as insurance for themselves, guaranteeing 100% success rate. However, sometimes it was easy to overreach. This kind of thing was the same no matter which world it was in. Seeing that Yang Luqing promised so many materials at once, and even wanted to invest more in the future, Feng Yi was a little embarrassed. He was the chief artificer of the imperial family, and the materials he usually needed came from the imperial family. He didn't need to do it himself, so he didn't have any materials in storage. In the past, others envied him, but now he was a little envious of others. Yang Luqing promised so many materials, but he, the chief artificer of the imperial family, didn't dare to promise. He looked at Lin Feng with an indescribably embarrassed expression. He only thought about asking for help, but forgot to prepare a gift. Seeing him like this, Lin Feng instantly guessed the reason. Just as he was about to speak, Zhao Duo's voice came from afar. "I'll send someone to deliver Mr. Fen's share later," Zhao Duo said with a smile. Mr. Lin wouldn't mind waiting a little longer, right? Since the emperor had agreed, what else could Lin Feng say? He smiled slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. However, there's no rush. Your Majesty can send someone to deliver it at any time." When the surrounding people heard Zhao Duo's words, they were shocked. If it was only Yang Luqing and Feng Yi who did this, they might still be able to treat it as them being muddle-headed. However, now that even Zhao Duo supported their actions, this matter was probably not as simple as it seemed. "Looks like this Qingfeng College is really not simple," they thought to themselves. Even Yang Liuqing, Fenny, and the Emperor held Qingfeng College in high esteem. They believed that Qingfeng College taught better than Yang Liuqing and Fenny, so Qingfeng College was definitely not bad. They began to hesitate as well. Should we send that brat of ours to the Clear Wind Academy next year as well? Originally, the Imperial Capital Academy was their first choice. Other than the Imperial Capital Academy, the other three academies were also not bad. But now that such a thing had happened, they slowly began to value the Clear Wind Academy. In fact, the Clear Wind Academy's position in their hearts had quietly risen to a level that surpassed the Imperial Capital Academy. "Boss, you tricked those two old men into sending you materials with just one sentence. You're too cunning." Nono chirped on Lin Feng's shoulder. Lin Feng rolled his eyes and said, "When have I ever lied to them? They were the ones who wanted to send me the materials, okay?" While the man and bird were chatting, the low-level students' competition below had already ended. Sparse applause sounded. It was completely different from what the students had imagined. The students who won didn't feel the enthusiasm of the audience and didn't hear the thunderous applause. They immediately felt disheartened. They lowered their heads and left the competition ground dejectedly, as if they were the ones who lost. Capital College won this round by a narrow margin and was ranked first. Sacred College was ranked second, Tianqin College was ranked third, and Zhongnan College was ranked fourth. Qingfeng College announced that they would forfeit before the competition, so they were ranked fifth. After a while, the low-level students' equipment refining competition began again. However, from the beginning until the end of the competition, everyone was thinking about Qingfeng College, so they were all absent-minded and uninterested. The competition between the lower-ranked students ended in this cold and cheerless atmosphere. In the distance, Meng Bai had a smile on his face, as if this situation didn't affect him at all. However, he was extremely angry in his heart. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth at Lin Feng. A small Qinfeng college actually stole all the limelight from our capital college. This was unbearable, but he had no choice. He could not give face to Lin Feng, but he had to give face to the Emperor Yang Luqing and the others. Therefore, it was easy to imagine how depressed Meng Bai was in his heart. On the other hand, the people from Sacred College, Zhongnan College, and Tianqin College were gloating. Between the Imperial Capital Academy and the Clear Wind Academy, no matter which of the two academies lost face, it was something to be happy about. The result of this friendly competition doesn't seem to be as bad as we thought. They secretly laughed in their hearts. Not long after, the intermediate students' competition began. As soon as the match began, the Emperor Capital Academy brought out their secret weapon, the genius who had just joined the academy. Meng Bai looked expectantly at the arrogant youth who slowly walked out. His face was full of smiles. "I've been planning for so long, wasn't it all for this moment?" He glanced at Lin Feng and couldn't help but sneer in his heart. "Let's see how you're going to steal my capital college's limelight now." Although most of the people around didn't pay attention to the competition, he believed that with this young genius ability, he would quickly attract everyone's attention. This was Capital College's trump card, his secret weapon. The people from Sacred College, Zhongnan College, and Tianqin College silently looked at the arrogant youth and secretly said, "This kid is Capital College's secret weapon?" They had sent people to investigate and knew that a young genius had come to Capital College. Moreover, he was an outstanding genius. However, they didn't find out his name or his identity. Capital College's intermediate student representative, Wen Han. Zhongnan College's intermediate student representative, Chen Bo. Hearing this voice, Lin Feng couldn't help but open his eyes in confusion. He looked at the youth on the field. Wen Han? When the referee's palm slowly fell, the battle began. However, in the next moment, Wen Han immediately attacked. With astonishing speed, he knocked down Chen Bo without any suspense. In one exchange, the battle was already over. Instant kill. One was a rank 6 Earth Warrior, the other was a rank 4 Earth Warrior. The cultivation of the two was not at the same level. This kid actually appeared here. Lin Feng murmured in surprise. Rank 6 Earth Warrior, it seems that his progress these days is quite big. Wen Han was the arrogant genius that Lin Feng met when he first entered Qinfeng College and took over the first year's refining class. However, when Lin Feng went to Qinfeng College, he didn't see him again. He didn't expect to meet him again under such circumstances. Capital College's intermediate student representative, Wen Han, wins. The referee shouted excitedly. However, Wen Han was expressionless as he stood on the stage, motionless. It seemed that he was prepared to challenge to the end until all the intermediate students of the Zhongnan College were beaten down. The sudden appearance of a genius attracted everyone's attention. This kid looks like he's only 14 or 15 years old. He can't be that powerful, right? Rank 6 Earth Warrior genius, he's really a genius. Capital College is really hidden. No, it should be said that they have a rich foundation to be able to cultivate such a monstrous genius. The crowd couldn't help but be in an uproar. They had never seen such a young rank 6 Earth Warrior before. Did this mean that this kid would definitely break through to the 9th rank in the future, or even become the legendary sovereign? They inexplicably shivered, and their eyes gradually became fiery. The scales in their hearts once again tilted towards Capital College. To be able to cultivate such a monstrous genius, then sending their own juniors to Qinfeng College to study seemed to be a good idea, right? Wen Han, it won't be long before this name will be famous throughout the world. However, those who had some knowledge were somewhat moved in their hearts. They secretly pondered and prepared to find an opportunity to get to know this little guy and form a good relationship. In the future, when he became successful and famous, then they would naturally obtain some benefit. When the sun slowly climbed to the top of their heads, the battle competition had ended. When Han defeated the intermediate students of the various colleges without any suspense, and became the absolute #1 person among the intermediate students. However, when the weapon refining competition began, everyone once again fell into a state of shock. Because compared to the battle competition, when Han's performance in the weapon refining competition was even more unexpected and shocking. It could be said to be incomparably stunning. When Han was refining, Yang Luqing and the others vaguely saw Lin Feng's shadow. Could it be that this little guy has some kind of relationship with Lin Feng? They couldn't help but suspect in their hearts. However, even more people had never seen Lin Feng before. Therefore, when they saw Han's performance when he was refining, they were shocked and exclaimed, "Genius!" Seeing that Han had indeed caused a great shock to everyone, Meng Bai was secretly pleased. This is a true genius. Only such a genius has the qualifications to be the secret weapon of the Imperial Capital Academy. He was very satisfied with the shocking scene caused by Han's appearance. The corners of his mouth curled up, unable to conceal the excitement in his heart. So violent but so beautiful! His speed is too fast, my eyes are about to blur. Looks like he's at least a Samsung weapon refiner, maybe even close to a 4-star one. Heavens, where did this little monster come from? Too terrifying! After an hour, the competition ended, and Han obtained the first place without any suspense. He was first in both the battle competition and the weapon refining competition. The strength and weapon refining ability that he displayed were extremely terrifying. Even Yang Rui and Tang Dingtian, the two top geniuses of the imperial capital, felt that they were not as good as him. This was an all-around genius. No matter which aspect, it made people feel ashamed of their inferiority. Meng Bai silently looked at the judge who announced the results of the competition and smiled in his heart. It's done. Then, he turned his gaze to Lin Feng again and laughed secretly. The outcome has been decided. Let's see how you're going to turn the tables. However, there was an idiom called, extreme joy begets sorrow. Perhaps the heavens were deliberately making things difficult for Meng Bai, and the situation took a shocking turn in the next moment. Just as the judge announced the results of the competition, Han immediately borrowed the loudspeaker from him. The judge naturally would not disobey this precious genius of the Imperial Capital Academy, so he straightforwardly passed the loudspeaker to Han. Under everyone's gaze, Han's childish voice rang out. "I want to withdraw from the Imperial Capital Academy. Hayashi-sensei, can I join Qingfeng College?" As he spoke, he looked at Lin Feng with a sly smile on his face. It was like a different person compared to his arrogant appearance just now. Once these words came out, the entire place fell silent. The smile on Meng Bai's face instantly froze. P.S. The first update is here. Requesting monthly votes. Weapon Refining VIP Group. 168605329. Full subscription verification required to enter the group. Weapon Refining VIP Group. 204276549. Chapter 322. No one would have expected that this super genius, who had just won first place in both the intermediate student combat competition and the weapon refining competition, would announce his withdrawal from Emperor Capital College right after the competition ended. Instead, he would join Qingfeng College. This kind of thing was simply unimaginable. Qingfeng College, it's Qingfeng College again. What kind of background does Qingfeng College have? Not only did Senior Yang, Senior Fun, and His Majesty hold it in high esteem, but even this mysterious genius chose to join Qingfeng College at such a crucial time. They were getting more and more curious about Qingfeng College. What kind of charm did Qingfeng College have to be able to attract so many seniors and geniuses time and time again? Meng Bai's smiling face instantly turned green and then white. He gritted his teeth so hard that they creaked. This sudden scene caught him off guard. Why? No matter how good Meng Bai's face was, he could not hide the anger in his heart at this time. He looked at Wen Han coldly. Give me a reason. He could not do anything to Wen Han in front of everyone, but it was conceivable that he would not let Wen Han off so easily in the future. This was because Wen Han's action could be said to be a slap to Emperor Capital College's face in front of the entire upper class of the imperial capital. He had caused Emperor Capital College's reputation to be ruined. This was not something that could be resolved with a simple apology. However, Wen Han did not care about the threat in his words. He said very calmly, because I was originally a student of Qinfeng College. Once these words came out, the whole place was in an uproar. Everyone could not help but look at Meng Bai with a trace of disdain on their faces. Wen Han did not explain clearly, so everyone thought that Emperor Capital College was trying to poach him by hook or by crook. Furthermore, he was poaching from an unknown college. It was really not the style of the top college in the imperial capital. Meng Bai's lungs were about to explode. He said coldly, "Don't mislead others. I did not poach anyone from Qinfeng College. I did not say that." Wen Han shrugged. However, when I was in Jianglong County, I did study at Qinfeng College. Mentor Lin Feng happened to be my mentor. Without waiting for Meng Bai to speak, Wen Han said, I participated in the intermediate student competition and won the first place for Emperor Capital College. From now on, I do not owe Emperor Capital College anything, so don't stop me from joining Qinfeng College. Emperor Capital College was Qinfeng College. If I am in a good mood, I will explain it to you. If I am not in a good mood, I will not say anything, you can't force me. Facing Meng Bai, the dean of the Emperor Capital Academy, a rank 9 Earth warrior, Wen Han was not afraid at all. He did not back down and his tone was extremely arrogant. Meng Bai was so angry that he laughed and clenched his fist. If they weren't in public, he would have attacked Wen Han long ago. As for whether Wen Han was really looking for death, only Wen Han himself knew. Wen Han immediately turned his head, leaving the back of Meng Bai's head exposed. His expression changed from the arrogance from before to a cheeky grin as he said, Instructor Lin, I have already withdrawn from the Imperial Capital Academy. You must take me in, otherwise I will be homeless. He revealed a pitiful look. A little slippery fellow. And a very hateful genius slippery fellow. This was everyone's impression of Wen Han. Lin Feng was startled for a moment and blinked innocently at Meng Bai. Meng Bai turned his head angrily and snorted. Obviously, he had a deep resentment towards Lin Feng. What an unexpected calamity! Lin Feng wailed in his heart. However, with his current strength and status, he really didn't care about a nobody like Meng Bai. A 9th-rank Earth warrior was simply a joke in Lin Feng's eyes. Lin Feng was not interested in explaining anything to Meng Bai. If it was a misunderstanding, then so be it. He looked at Wen Han and smiled faintly. Okay, if you want to come back, Qinfeng College will welcome you at any time. Thank you, Hayashi-sensei. Wen Han decisively abandoned Emperor Capital College and turned to Lin Feng's side. Lin Feng was at the end of the line. Many of the people of the 6 great clans looked at Wen Han in surprise, a trace of fear flashing between their brows. Huang Wenbing frowned. Lin Feng, this guy, his connections are too wide. Even the young master of the Wen family is related to him. At this moment, the people of the 6 great clans looked at Lin Feng with even more respect. The Wen family was a family that did not reveal much. They had few people, few experts in the family, and limited financial resources. Ordinary people would not know, but the people of the 8 great clans knew very well. This was a very special family. Even the people of the 8 great clans would not easily provoke them. In short, very few people knew of the existence of the Wen family. However, those who knew of the Wen family would keep it a secret. When he was at Qingfeng College, even Xueren, a perverse and hedonistic young master, was afraid of Wen Han. It could be seen that Wen Han's background was far from as simple as Lin Feng had imagined. However, Lin Feng did not know everything behind this. "You kid, not bad." Lin Feng patted Wen Han's shoulder and praised. "It's only been a year and your cultivation has increased by quite a bit. Your armament refining ability has also increased so quickly." Wen Han immediately flattered, "Isn't it because Hayashi-sensei taught me well?" Lin Feng laughed and scolded, "Kid, don't flatter me. How long have I taught you? What does the increase in your cultivation and armament refining ability have to do with me?" "Heh heh." Wen Han touched his nose and laughed foolishly. Wen Han's current performance caused the jaws of the people of the 6 great clans to drop to the ground. Was this still the Wen Han they knew? Was this still the incomparably arrogant young Master One in their memories? They could not tell if this was a dream or reality. We still underestimated Lin Feng. They never would have thought that Lin Feng could even subdue this arrogant young Master One. Seeing Lin Feng slap on Wen Han's shoulder, their eyelids couldn't help but twitch a few times. Their hearts trembled with fear, afraid that Wen Han would immediately turn hostile. Luckily, although Wen Han's reaction was out of their expectations and caused them to be incomparably shocked, at least the worst outcome that they had expected did not happen. If Lin Feng knew young Master Wen's identity, I wonder if he would still have the courage to slap him. The people of the 6 great clans looked at Lin Feng strangely. Lin Feng just happened to feel their gazes and turned his head, asking puzzledly, "What's wrong with you guys? Is there a flower on my face?" Wen Han also turned his head at the same time and glared fiercely at the group of people. This glance instantly caused the people of the 6 great clans to keep quiet out of fear. They hurriedly shook their heads and said, "No, nothing. That's right, we just suddenly felt that you seemed to be very handsome, so we were a little surprised." The youth from the Liu family coughed, then turned his head to look at the people around him. "What do you guys think?" Everyone nodded their heads like chickens pecking at rice. "That's right, that's right." Lin Feng opened his mouth, and after a long while, he squeezed out a sentence, "All right, thank you guys." Ha 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 ha. Nono held it in for a long time, and finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Boss, these guys are too funny." Wen Han, on the other hand, secretly gave the people of the 6 great clans a "at least you guys know what's good for you" expression, and secretly let out a sigh of relief. Although he clearly knew that the people of the 6 great clans were fishy, Lin Feng was too lazy to ask more. After all, it would be a waste of time to ask, so there was no need to waste his breath. The student competition has ended. Next, the instructor competition will begin. Meng Bai had already calmed down by now and expressionlessly announced, "May the representatives of each school please get ready. We will begin drawing lots first." He had no choice in front of so many people. He couldn't lose his poise. Then, he looked at Lin Feng and asked in a more serious tone, "Dean Lin, this time, does Qingfeng College intend to forfeit again?" There was a hint of sarcasm in his tone. Perhaps outsiders wouldn't feel anything when they heard it, but the people of Qingfeng College frowned when they heard it. He emphasized the words "forfeit" again. A trace of hidden resentment flashed across his eyes as he looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled casually. "Forfeit? No, how can Qingfeng College forfeit such an important competition?" An unfathomable sneer appeared in Meng Bai's eyes, and he said, "All right then, Dean Lin, please send a representative to draw lots." Hearing this, Lin Feng looked at the people behind him. However, the people didn't give him face, and turned their heads away, pretending not to see it. Although they were here to show their support for Lin Feng, they really couldn't bring themselves to deal with these level 7 and level 8 kid. What was bullying? This was bullying. A dignified supreme being, even if he was only an elementary supreme being, an old monster ranging from 1,000 to 3,000 to 4,000 years old, had to deal with these small shrimps with low cultivation. If this wasn't bullying, then what was? This scene caused Lin Feng to feel rather helpless, and he could only turn around to look at Meng Bai and suggest, "You've seen it as well. These seniors of our academy don't want to bully others. Why don't all of you choose someone?" He pointed at the group of supreme martial artists in the middle and said, "There are so many seniors, you can choose any one of them." Meng Bai was so angry that he vomited blood and said angrily, "Lin Feng, don't go too far." He thought that Lin Feng was deliberately playing tricks on him, but Lin Feng was telling the truth. He really didn't lie to him. "According to what you said, any one of you can win?" Meng Bai mocked, "You're too arrogant. In terms of teaching strength, if Capital College was ranked second, no one would dare to be ranked first. This had always been Capital College's strength, and it was also the source of his confidence. Qingfeng College was just an unknown small school, and Capital College had defeated it. Lin Feng, are you still going to pretend now?" Seeing this, Lin Feng could only look at Star Sovereign, shrugged helplessly, and said, "Senior Star Sovereign, it seems that I have to trouble you. Do you really want to go?" Star Sovereign laughed bitterly. The others looked at Star Sovereign sympathetically. "Who asked him to promise to join Qingfeng College for a 3-striped spiritual armor?" Sigh. He let out a long sigh. He was afraid that his reputation would disappear in a single day. There was no other way. Now, someone had to go up. Other than him, there was really no other suitable candidate. He was like a soldier rushing to the battlefield, and a tragic aura surged from his body. "Let's go. I'll just take it as killing time." He comforted himself in his heart. He took a step forward and his gaze swept past Meng Bai. Then, he slowly walked toward the square. As soon as he opened his mouth, he directly said a domineering sentence, "Be straightforward, all of you can come together." There was a trace of impatience and reluctance in his tone. This sentence instantly caused everyone around to almost fall. This middle-aged man was simply too domineering. P.S. Second update, looking for monthly votes. Chapter 323. When Zhao Duo, Yang Luqing, Fun Yi, Zhang Kuang, and the others saw Star Sovereign stand up, they immediately jumped up from their seats and looked at Star Sovereign in disbelief. At the same time, an absurd thought appeared in their minds. Could it be that Star Sovereign is going to personally take action? A high-level sovereign was a super-terrifying expert who was famous in the entire continent and even in the entire Xingfeng realm. Using a high-level sovereign to deal with the mentors of Emperor Capital Academy was simply using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. What a waste! They really couldn't figure out what Lin Feng was thinking. Although I know that Lin Feng has never done things according to common sense, I didn't expect that he would really let a sovereign participate in the competition. Suddenly, a strong bitterness emerged in their hearts. However, this is indeed in line with Lin Feng's usual style. He doesn't make a sound, but he amazes everyone with a single brilliant feat. The surrounding audience was more and more confused about Qingfeng College. This strange person actually threatened to let all the mentors of the 4 major academies fight together. Wasn't he thinking too highly of himself? They didn't know anything else, but they were sure that most of the mentors from Sacred Academy, Middle-Aged Academy, and Tianqing Academy had come to participate in the competition. Emperor Capital Academy had even sent a veteran mentor with a cultivation of the 9th step. Facing so many experts, even a 9th step powerhouse didn't have much confidence. Even Zhong Wei didn't dare to be so careless. Although the possibility of losing was not high, it would be quite strenuous. If he lost, it would be a great loss of face. Thus, they looked at the star supremacy as if they were looking at a fool. Challenging all the mentors of the 4 major academies, wasn't this courting death? Did he really think that he was a legendary sovereign? Everyone secretly mocked in their hearts, and they didn't hide the ridicule on their faces. After Zhao Duo and the others stood up, they did not sit down again. They stared intently at Star Sovereign, their eyes full of anticipation. Although Linfeng's move was beyond their expectations, it was undeniable that a battle between sovereigns was not something that ordinary people could witness. Previously, when they fought with the sovereigns of the Eternal Continent outside the city gate, everyone was concerned about the outcome of the battle. How could they have the time to appreciate a battle between sovereigns? Therefore, this kind of opportunity was very rare. It was no wonder that they were looking forward to it. Xing Chen was expressionless. He did not care about the gazes of the outside world as he looked at Meng Bai indifferently. He really did not have the patience to slowly fight such a boring match. He might as well end it all in one go. Linfeng, oh Linfeng, you can forgive the sins of the heavens, but the sins of your own making are the hardest to bear. Meng Bai sneered inwardly. It's fine if you're arrogant, but your college's instructors are also so condescending. What can Qingfeng College achieve in this case? He glanced at the audience around him. The original resentment in his heart slowly dissipated and was replaced by schadenfreude. You're the one who broke the good situation. You're the one who pushed Qingfeng College into the fire pit. You can't blame me. However, he did not agree to Star Sovereign's request. His reason was, I'm sorry. The friendly competition is a competition jointly organized by all the major colleges in the imperial capital. The various rules have been discussed by all the colleges, and the majority of them agreed to it before it was decided. Therefore, you must abide by the rules of the competition. If you're not satisfied, you can forfeit. The people from Sacred College, Zhongnan College, and Tianqin College were secretly angry. This person from Qingfeng College is looking down on us too much, isn't he? In particular, the instructors who were about to participate in the competition were filled with resentment. What does he mean by this? Does he think we're easy to bully? A group of instructors clenched their fists and looked at Star Sovereign with dissatisfaction and anger. When the competition starts later, we must teach him a good lesson and let him know how high the sky is and how thick the earth is. They made up their minds that when they fought with Star Sovereign later, they would not hold back. They would teach this arrogant and conceited fellow a good lesson. Star Sovereign frowned and immediately said indifferently, "All right, I'll go first." This sentence carried the meaning of a useless rejection. It was as domineering as ever. After saying that, Star Sovereign walked into the competition field in the middle of the square. He did not wait for Meng Bai's reply at all. This was because no matter what Meng Bai said, he would not give in again. Giving in to Meng Bai was already his limit. Meng Bai was stunned. He was furious. "Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish." He looked at the deans of the other 3 colleges and saw them nodding angrily. Then, he slowly said, "Qingfeng College's instructors." He looked at Star Sovereign. Xing Chen. Xing Chen Sovereign gave a name. Xing Chen? What a strange name. Meng Bai did not think much of it and continued to say to the surrounding audience, Xing Chen's instructor insisted on going first, and he was long-winded, but the meaning was very simple. He wanted to tell everyone that this was the request of the Qingfeng College's instructor. They did not force it. If they lost the competition later, Qingfeng College would have no excuse and the audience would have no reason to make irresponsible remarks. Then, the representatives of Capital College, Sacred College, South Central College, and Tianqin College began to draw lot. After they finished drawing lots, the 3 instructors of Capital College could not help but smile excitedly. The instructors of the other 3 colleges, on the other hand, were extremely disappointed. Because Capital College had drawn number 1, they were supposed to be the first to go up, but now they were the second. However, it did not matter if they were first or second. Anyway, they were the first to go up. The rest would be postponed and the final results would be calculated. When the 3 instructors passed by Meng Bai whispered, "You don't have to hold back later." If there's a chance, it doesn't matter if you kill him. I'll take care of the rest. A cold light flashed in his eyes. At the same time, Star Sovereign narrowed his eyes. His gaze swept past Meng Bai, and the corner of his mouth raised into a cold smile. Kill him. On Meng Bai's side, the three mentors glanced at the Star Sovereign from afar. A sinister smile flashed across their faces. No problem. We will entertain him well. They emphasized the word entertain. The meaning of this entertain was thought-provoking. Soon, the three instructors arrived at the edge of the arena. I'll go first. The veteran teacher with the cultivation of a ninth-order Earth warrior was a man of his word, and with a single sentence, he set the order of the competition. Although the other two were somewhat unwilling, they could only nod helplessly. After the rank 9 instructor went up, the referee began to announce, Capital College's instructor, by Dan. Qingfeng College's instructor, Star Sovereign. After the referee finished speaking, his palm slowly fell vertically. The battle begins. At this moment, all the spectators looked at the two people in the arena with schadenfreude, especially Star Sovereign. They were waiting for Star Sovereign to make a fool of himself. As for Zhao Duo, Yang Luqing, and the others, they were also nervously watching the arena without blinking, unwilling to miss a moment. Boom! Everyone's eyes blurred, and then they saw the rank 9 Earth Warrior instructor named by Dan fly backward, spitting out a mouthful of bright red blood. He flew more than 300 feet and crashed into the wall of a building in the distance, making a hole in the solid wall. He plunged into the building before stopping. As for Star Sovereign, it was as if he had not moved. He was still in the same place, expressionless, as if nothing had happened. All the spectators sucked in a breath of cold air. The sarcasm and schadenfreude on their faces were all gone, replaced by fear and horror. They did not even see Star Sovereign make a move, and the powerful rank 9 Earth Warrior was beaten out of the arena. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. It was too terrifying, too terrifying. This was the only impression they had of the Star Sovereign. Their souls were trembling, trembling in fear. This is the instructor of Qingfeng College? Their throats were dry, their voices were hoarse, and they were trembling as they spoke. Where did this Qingfeng College find such a terrifying expert? It was only at this moment that they came to their senses. This small college that did not show off actually had such a terrifying expert. The Emperor Capital Academy was known as the strongest instructor. Even the dean of the Emperor Capital Academy had to go all out and spend a lot of time to barely defeat the rank 9 Earth Warrior. However, he could not even take a single move from this Qingfeng College instructor. Instakill. What a shocking scene. If it was just an instakill, they would not be so shocked. The reason why it was so shocking was because the one who was instakilled was a rank 9 Earth Warrior. This was a rank 9 Earth Warrior. He was actually instakilled in one move. Moreover, they did not even know when Star Sovereign made his move. The people from the Sacred Academy, South Central Academy, and Tianqing Academy were all trembling in fear. The group of instructors who were eager to go on stage and teach Star Sovereign a lesson were all trembling in fear. They felt as if they had just survived a disaster. Continue. Don't waste time. Star Sovereign said indifferently. That referee was stunned for a long time, cold sweat dripping from his head, instantly drenching his clothes. Only after Xing Chen Zun impatiently reminded him did he stutter. Qing 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 Qing. Qingfeng Academy's instructor. Instructor Xing Chen Zun wins. Please invite the second instructor from the Imperial Capital Academy onto the stage. As a result, the remaining two instructors of the Emperor Capital Academy suddenly turned pale. They were so scared that they did not dare to go on stage. Star Sovereign frowned and said, "Hurry up." The two of them trembled in fear and subconsciously rushed over. They completely forgot the rules of the competition and even forgot about giving up and admitting defeat. The referee was also trembling in fear at this time. He did not care about the rules at all. Star Sovereign did not care about the number of people on the other side. Seeing the two of them go on stage, he revealed a smile and said to the referee, "All right, announce the start of the competition." The referee was like a puppet as he began to announce. After the referee finished announcing, the two instructors of the Emperor Capital Academy let out a shrill scream and flew in two different directions. On the ground there were 3 beautiful flowers of blood. One of them was left behind by the rank 9 instructor, by Dan. "It's over again." Everyone stared at this scene in a daze and muttered. P.S. The third update is presented. Requesting monthly votes. Chapter 324. The scene in front of them was something that most people did not expect. It was because they didn't expect it that they were shocked. At this time, their hopes of being lucky were completely shattered. The first thought in their minds was, Supreme Master. Apart from the legendary Jizun, they really didn't know what kind of powerhouse could kill a rank 9 Earth Warrior in one move, and also kill 2 peak rank 8 Earth Warriors in one move. Qingfeng College has a Supreme Master. This fact made everyone feel suffocated. They knew that the royal family of Zhao country had 3 supreme guardians, but they were the royal family after all, the ruler of a country. Qingfeng College was just a small college that no one had heard of. How could it be compared with the royal family? However, such a small and unknown academy had actually produced a supreme-level old monster, and it just so happened that he was only a teacher. This was too shocking for everyone to comprehend. If this supreme martial artist was the headmaster or the vice-headmaster, they might be able to accept it a little more easily. But now that this supreme martial artist was participating in the competition as a teacher, it was obvious that his position in the Clear Wind Academy had not reached the same level as the headmaster. Based on this deduction, wouldn't it mean that the Clear Wind Academy had more than one supreme martial artist? Qingfeng College is too scary. I've never heard of its name before, but it has a supreme master. Meng Bai's face was ashen, and his eyes were full of despair. He stared blankly at Star Sovereign and shouted in his heart, "Supreme Master, he is a Supreme Master." A Supreme Master came to participate in the friendly competition held by the college. This was simply bullying. Meng Bai's heart was full of tears, and his heart was about to break. He had carefully planned this friendly competition from the beginning in order to let Capital College establish its position as the top college in Zhao country in one fell swoop. From the beginning of the plan, everything was going well, and the plan was going according to his expectations. Everything was in line with his expectations until the start of the friendly competition. However, his luck seemed to have run out at that time. From the beginning of the competition, the situation had suddenly reversed. First, Yang Luqing, Fun Yi, and Zhao Duo stood in Qingfeng College's camp, causing the surrounding spectators to start noticing Qingfeng College. Their hearts gradually wavered. Then, it was the genius that Imperial Capital College found with great difficulty. Their secret weapon, however, couldn't wait to announce that he would join Qingfeng College right after the competition ended. It was a slap in the face in front of everyone, causing Imperial Capital College to lose all face. At this moment, Meng Bai was already unable to take the blow. He spent a lot of effort to forcefully suppress the anger in his heart and continued to host the competition. However, this instructor from Qingfeng College gave him a heavy blow when the competition had just begun. Supreme Being, that's a Supreme Being. What can I use to fight him? Meng Bai only felt a deep sense of powerlessness. No matter how resourceful he was, he couldn't think of any solution at this moment. The 2 words Supreme Martial Artist were like a huge mountain pressing down on his heart. The people from Holy College, Zhongnan College, and Tianqing College felt a wave of lingering fear. After the lingering fear, they rejoiced. Fortunately, they didn't draw number 1, otherwise. They looked at the big holes in the walls of the buildings in 3 directions and the dazzling flowers of blood in the competition field. They couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. If they had drawn number 1, then they would have suffered the same fate as the 3 instructors from Imperial Capital College. Continue. Supreme Being Star looked at the group of instructors from the 3 big colleges and said with a hint of urging in his tone. The group of instructors' faces stiffened and their bodies trembled. Then, they looked at each other with sullen faces. Their hands and feet didn't listen to their commands and couldn't help but tremble. Not to mention going up to fight, whether they could even stand still was a question worth discussing. The 3 college deans looked at the instructors beside them and couldn't help but shake their heads and sigh. It was already like this. What was the point of competing? If they went up, they would just be throwing their lives away and becoming a laughing stock. They didn't hesitate at all and directly announced their abstention. I represent the 3 instructors from Holy College to abstain. I represent the 3 instructors from Zhongnan College to abstain. I represent the 3 instructors from Tianqin College to abstain. After abstaining, the 3 deans breathed a sigh of relief in their hearts. It was as if a mountain of pressure had been removed, and their bodies were incomparably relaxed. For them, there was no chance to get first place anyway. Losing to Imperial Capital College was a loss. Losing to Qinfeng College was also a loss, so it didn't matter. Meng Bai said hatefully, "Coward!" When he thought of his college losing a rank 9 Earth Warrior and 2 peak rank 8 Earth Warriors, and Imperial Capital College losing face and image, his heart couldn't help but bleed. Although the 3 instructors didn't die after the preliminary examination, they were still seriously injured. There were many fractures all over their bodies, their internal organs were displaced, and there was a large area of bleeding. Their yuan li was also forcibly scattered. Even if they were cured, it would be difficult to recover in the end. In the future, they would basically be crippled. What was the use of having such instructors? Lin Feng. He looked at Lin Feng with eyes that were about to burst into flames. Star Sovereign returned to Lin Feng's side without a care in the world. It was as if he had done nothing at all. Lin Feng smiled bitterly and said, "Senior Star Sovereign, this time I'm afraid Imperial Capital College will hate Qinfeng College." Star Sovereign said indifferently, "So what if they hate a small Imperial Capital College? Perhaps only a supreme with terrifying strength and a domineering personality like him could say these words as if nothing had happened." Meng Bai was almost going crazy. His plan had completely collapsed, and it was all caused by Qinfeng College. He would never let Qinfeng College have an easy time. He forced himself to calm down, took a deep breath, and barely managed to maintain the bearing of an academy head. Only then did he look at Lin Feng and said, "Academy Head Lin, I didn't expect that your academy was actually hiding a supreme martial artist senior. Amazing." "Haha, you flatter me." Lin Feng smiled faintly. "Damn it." Meng Bai clenched his fists even tighter. He said in a low voice, "I just don't know if the other instructors in your college are as powerful as him." His intentions were obvious. At the top of the spectator stand, Zhao Duo frowned and said, "Dean Meng?" Lin Feng smiled and said, "If you want to know the result, you can find another one to spar with." He smiled faintly, but it was unfathomable. "You can choose any one of the instructors behind me to be your opponent. If you win, Qinfeng College will immediately disband. If you lose, I won't ask you to do anything as long as you accept the fact that you've lost. What do you think?" These words made people's imaginations run wild. Meng Bai was a 9th stage powerhouse. Even if he couldn't compare to Zhong Wei, he was still one of the top 9th stage powerhouses. Since Lin Feng was so confident in letting Meng Bai choose an opponent, it could be seen how much confidence he had in the instructors of Qinfeng College. Moreover, the bet he set was extremely bold. If he didn't have absolute confidence, no one would dare to do it. Could it be that the group of old guys behind him are all supreme beings? A terrifying thought appeared in everyone's minds. As soon as this thought appeared, it grew and grew crazily, and could no longer be eliminated. Suddenly, they remembered the strange actions of Yang Luqing, Fun Yi, Zhao Duo, and the others. They also remembered the strange actions of the genius youth. Then, they thought of the words Lin Feng said before the competition, and what he said just now. They suddenly understood something in their hearts. After connecting all the dots, they suddenly came to a terrifying conclusion. I'm afraid that the old guys behind Lin Feng are all supreme beings. Even though this conclusion was hard for them to believe, they couldn't think of any other possibility other than this. After counting carefully, there were a total of 36 of them. Hiss! They sucked in a breath of cold air, and they were extremely shocked. If that's really the case, then it's too crazy. Meng Bai was also shocked. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and forced himself to calm down. He squeezed out an ugly smile and asked tentatively, Dean Lin, they can't all be supreme beings, right? Lin Feng nodded seriously. That's right, they are all supreme beings. However, he answered so seriously that Meng Bai didn't believe him, and a trace of doubt appeared on his face. The audience also started to doubt their own speculation. Could it be that they guessed wrong? You don't believe me? Lin Feng raised his eyebrows. Meng Bai didn't say anything, but it was obvious from his eyes that he didn't believe him. He really thought that Lin Feng was bluffing him just now. Lin Feng turned his head to look at Carefree Supreme Being and the others, and said, Seniors, Dean Meng doesn't believe that you are all supreme beings. Why don't we show him a little? Sigh. Carefree Supreme Being sighed and looked at Lin Feng helplessly. Fine, we'll do as you say. Then, he nodded to the group of supreme beings beside him. In the next moment, 36 auras suddenly exploded. The first to bear the brunt was Meng Bai. Meng Bai was directly sent flying, as if he was hit by a train. These 36 auras enveloped the entire Emperor Capital Academy, causing the flowers and trees in the Emperor Capital Academy to tremble, and the ground to tremble slightly. The sky changed color and sank into darkness. Everyone in the Emperor Capital Academy felt as if they were being pressed down by 36 towering mountains. Their souls trembled, as if they were about to collapse at any time. However, as soon as these 36 auras were released, they disappeared without a trace in an instant. However, everyone in the Emperor Capital Academy was breathing heavily. At that moment, they felt as if the sky was about to collapse, and they themselves had taken a turn in front of the gates of hell. Although it was only for a moment, to them it was like 10,000 years. Those 36 auras suffocated them, and they were almost scared to death. They didn't doubt that as long as the owner of these 36 auras was willing, he could kill everyone in the Emperor Capital Academy with just his aura alone. Everyone was sweating profusely, as if they had just been fished out of the water. Their bodies were drenched in cold sweat. As they breathed heavily, they looked at Lin Feng, Carefree Supreme Being, and the others behind him. At this moment, they understood that Lin Feng wasn't lying. Those people were all supreme beings. An academy with 36 supreme beings, heavens. Their eyes were wide open, and they didn't know how to express the shock in their hearts. This is definitely the most terrifying academy in history, there's no other. P.S. The fourth update is presented. Chapter 325. The sudden outburst of the 36 supreme martial artists caused a short period of silence in the Emperor Capital College. Especially those from the Emperor Capital College, Sacred College, South Central College, and Tianqin College. They were more shocked than the audience. No one would have thought that this small academy was actually hiding a total of 36 supreme martial artists. An ordinary supreme martial artist was enough to support a famous top college in the continent. For example, Xianyang College in the Great Qin Empire could be said to be the top college in the whole Greenwood continent. Many geniuses in the Greenwood continent tried their best to get into it. It didn't matter how much money they had to spend. From this, one could see the influence of a supreme martial artist on a college. Qingfeng College not only had a supreme martial artist, but also a terrifying 36 supreme martial artists. It was undoubtedly a fatal attraction to people. If this news spread out, people would rush to the capital of Zhao no matter how far away they were just to get into Qingfeng College. Even people from the Eternal Continent might not be able to resist this temptation. They would travel thousands of miles to get into Qingfeng College. It's over. It's completely over. This thought flashed through the minds of the leaders of the 4 colleges at the same time. With Qingfeng College as a fierce tiger, did the 4 colleges still have any hope of survival? Although they didn't want to admit it, the facts were clearly in front of them. They had no choice but to accept it. While the audience was still in shock, Linfeng said apologetically, "I'm sorry. Just now, the mentors of our college accidentally hurt Dean Meng. It seems that this year's friendly competition can't continue. I'm deeply sorry for this. I hope everyone can forgive me." At this time, Meng Bai was still in the ruins. He was half dead. There were many fractures on his face, and a few of his ribs were broken. A large amount of blood flowed out from his chest. He looked very miserable. Although everyone sympathized with Meng Bai, when they thought about it, they felt that this fellow only had himself to blame. If Meng Bai hadn't planned all this by himself and planned to use Qingfeng College as an example, how could all this have happened? The seeds that were planted in the past were now bearing fruit. Everything was traceable. Just as Lin Feng had said, this year's friendly competition could no longer be held. The 3 teachers who represented the top fighting strength of the Imperial Capital Academy were heavily injured and were basically crippled. Principal Meng Bai was also unconscious and could no longer continue to manage the affairs of the Imperial Capital Academy. In the future, he would most likely have no hope of becoming the principal of the Imperial Capital Academy. With such a thing happening, the friendly competition had no choice but to stop. Everyone was silent. In the face of such a situation, they couldn't say anything. No matter what they said, it would be wrong. Lin Feng took the initiative to break the silence. He smiled and said, "Although Qingfeng College has just moved to the capital, I'm sure everyone has seen the strength of Qingfeng College. In January next year, all the major colleges in the mainland will be recruiting students. Our Qingfeng College will be no exception. When the time comes, I hope everyone will support us. If there are any good students, please don't hide them. You can rest assured that Qingfeng College is fully capable of teaching these good students." His joke immediately amused the crowd, who had serious expressions on their faces, into laughter. After Lin Feng's reminder, they remembered the most important thing. That was to quickly find an opportunity to send their children to Qingfeng College. Under the guidance of the 36 supreme teachers, even a pile of shit could be taught to become a pile of gold. No, we must do it early. Otherwise, we won't have a chance. They suddenly became anxious. Many people present couldn't help but look at the deans of the 4 major colleges. Feeling everyone's gaze, the 3 deans of Sacred College, Zhongnan College, and Tianqin College suddenly felt a chill on their back. They quickly looked up to the sky, avoided everyone's gaze, and pretended not to see. Of course, they could understand the meaning of everyone's gaze, but the problem was that they weren't willing to give up the geniuses of their respective colleges, especially Qingfeng College, which was a terrifying opponent. They couldn't help but complain in their hearts, "This Dean Lin is really too much." With the strength of Qingfeng College, they can recruit students from the entire Greenwood continent, or even all the young people in the Xingfeng realm. Why do they have to compete with us, a few small colleges, for the resources of the Zhao country? Grumbling was grumbling, but in the face of the Clear Wind Academy's unstoppable attack, they were completely powerless. Not to mention the eager audience, Even many of the young representatives sent by the 4 major colleges to participate in the friendly competition were quite tempted. They looked at Lin Feng and the group of supreme teachers behind him with burning eyes. Even some of the teachers around them began to waver. They were eager to give it a try. They secretly wondered how they could have the opportunity to join Qinfeng College and teach students in Qinfeng College. An academy with 36 supreme martial artists was a fatal attraction to parents, students, and many mentors. Gradually, some people began to lose their patience and approached the deans of the 3 major colleges. One of them finally couldn't help but say anxiously, "Dean Shui, please allow our Chen family's children to withdraw from Holy College." With the first, there was naturally a second. Dean Shui of Holy College was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He didn't even have time to speak before the surrounding voices drowned him out. "Dean Shui, I am the father of Chen Yongxian from the Earth Magician class of 3rd year class 2. I hope you can allow my child to withdraw from Holy College." "Dean Shui, I am, Dean Shui, Dean Shui." Dean Shui felt dizzy for a moment. He felt dizzy and almost fainted. "Dean Shui, you also have a child. I believe you can understand our difficulties. Please accept our request." "Dean Shui, I don't want your holy college to refund my tuition. I only hope that my child can withdraw from Holy College." The surrounding people took turns to fire their guns and cannons. They were like a swarm of flies buzzing around Dean Shui's ears. Dean Shui was dumbfounded. His face was ashen, and he had the urge to commit suicide. Seeing this, the 2 deans of South Central Academy and Tianqing Academy secretly sighed in relief. Fortunately, the parents of our students are a bit more rational. But just as this thought appeared in their mind, suddenly a chaotic voice came into their ears. It was the same as what Dean Shui was experiencing. "Dean Luo, can my child withdraw from South Central Academy? I don't need you to refund the school building fee that we paid when my child entered the college. As long as he can withdraw from the college." "Dean Luo, Dean Luo, Dean Zhang, didn't you always say that my little brat is very wild and disobedient? Didn't you always look for a chance to expel that little brat? Now your chance is here. Hurry up and expel him. Don't hesitate, I beg you." "Dean Zhang, thank you Tianqing Academy. But I hope, Dean Zhang, as a result, the 3 deans of Holy College, South Central Academy, and Tianqing Academy were so angry that blood rushed to their heads. Their faces were red and they were about to be driven crazy by the surrounding people. All of this was because of the college that had 36 supreme teachers. God, save me! The 3 deans were about to go crazy. Even they who didn't believe in God were praying in their hearts that the omnipotent God would quickly help them solve this problem. For a moment, they felt that the sky was about to fall. Could a college without students still be considered a college? In the past, they could arrogantly point fingers at those students who didn't perform well and didn't have enough talent. They could use all kinds of reasons to ask the parents of the students to fork out money. No matter how bad their reasons were, the parents had no choice but to obediently hand over money. They were in an absolute position. Except for a few students with special status, in the entire college, it could be said that the dean was the only one who reigned supreme. In the college they had the final say. Even if some parents sent a large sum of money, a large pile of essence stones, or refining materials, they might not agree to let their child join Qinfeng College. This depended on their mood. If they were in a good mood, everything would be easy to do. If they were in a bad mood, then sorry, they could leave the things behind and the person could quickly scram. However, at this moment, everything had changed. Not only did the parents of the genius students request to withdraw from the college, but even the parents of the naughty students also very stubbornly requested to withdraw from the college. At this moment, although everyone was still begging them, they weren't begging to join their college. They were begging to withdraw from their college. Crazy. All the parents were crazy. This group of lunatics. Do they think that they are qualified to join Qingfeng College just because they withdrew from our college? The three deans' hearts were filled with hatred. A college with 36 supreme martial artists. I'm afraid that the admission requirements are more than 10 times higher than ours. I'm afraid that those who are truly qualified to join Qingfeng College are less than 1/10 of the students. However, at this moment, no matter how much they tried to explain, no one would listen. Moreover, in this noisy environment, even if they tried to explain, no one would be able to hear them. Everyone only cared about one thing, and that was, they hoped that the college would quickly process the withdrawal procedures for their children. Lin Feng, Xiaoyao Jizun, and the others looked at each other. This sudden craze for transferring schools also gave them a big fright. They never thought that these parents would be so anxious and crazy. They had really underestimated the attraction of Qingfeng College to everyone, and also underestimated the concern that many parents had for their children. Perhaps joining Qingfeng College might not be that good, but at least it would be better than joining other colleges, right? Even if the effect was just a little bit better, they would still feel that their efforts were worth it. At this moment, in the ruins, Dean Meng slowly woke up. A few teachers carefully helped him up and slowly walked out of the building with a broken wall. However, as soon as he walked out, a group of people immediately surrounded him. They opened their mouths and couldn't stop talking. Dean Meng, I'm the father of Shi Shuang, a student from the second year class 6. I hope that your college can process the withdrawal procedures for my child as soon as possible. Sorry to trouble you. Shi Shuang was a good seedling among the second-year students of the Imperial Capital College, second only to Wen Han. She was also one of the students representing the Imperial Capital College in this friendly competition. Dean Meng, I hope that Dean Meng will allow my child to withdraw from the Imperial Capital College. Hearing this, Meng Bai's eyes rolled and he suddenly spat out a big mouthful of blood, then fainted. P.S. Sorry, I only have this one update today. In the afternoon, I went out to help a friend of my sister's to find a house to rent. I searched for a lot of people's houses online, but they were all already rented out. I went out and walked around, but I still couldn't find a suitable house. I didn't think of looking for a real estate agent, because the fees charged by real estate agents are too expensive. The agency fee is equivalent to a month's rent. We are all children from poor families, so we can't bear to pay so much agency fee. So I'll make up for it in 2 days. I'm sorry, everyone. Chapter 326. Lin Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he saw how enthusiastic the audience was. In the end, he had no choice but to stand up and say to the crowd, "Everyone, please be quiet." At this moment, Lin Feng's words were more effective than Emperor Zhao Duo's. As soon as he spoke, the crowd stopped and turned to look at him. Lin Feng organized his words and said slowly, Qingfeng College won't accept students until January after the New Year's Eve. You don't have to be in such a hurry. In addition, Qingfeng College has certain requirements for the student's talent. For other aspects, such as character, the requirements are even higher. So, please think carefully before making a decision. This matter concerns the future of your children, so you can't make a hasty decision. In other words, if they couldn't pass Qingfeng College's unified enrollment, they could still go back to the other colleges to study. There was no need to make their relationship so tense now. When the crowd heard this, they sighed with emotion. Dean Lin is such a good person. When the deans of the other colleges heard this, they looked at Lin Feng with gratitude and couldn't help but say, "What a good person." However, in the next moment, they reacted and wanted to slap themselves a few times. If it weren't for Lin Feng, the 4 colleges wouldn't have ended up like this. They actually said that Lin Feng was a good person. Although the main culprit was Dean Meng Bai of Capital College, Lin Feng couldn't get away with it. However, they didn't dare to offend Lin Feng, so they only dared to vent their anger on Meng Bai. It's all Meng Bai's fault. They were so angry that their teeth itched. It was just a friendly match. If he didn't play so many tricks, it wouldn't have ended up like this. After a while, Lin Feng said goodbye to the crowd and left. Behind him, Xiaoyao Zhizun and the others also left. Zhao Duo, Yang Luqing, Fun Yi, Zhang Kuang, and the others saw that the friendly competition could no longer continue, so they left the Imperial Capital Academy in silence. After hearing Lin Feng's words, the crowd slowly calmed down and no longer continued to cause trouble for the four great academies. However, they had already made a decision in their hearts. During the unified enrollment, they would definitely bring their own children to participate in the Qinfeng Academy's enrollment test. Although the chances of most of them passing were not high, they still had to give it a try. What if they passed? A moment later, all the guests and participants of the Imperial Capital Academy friendly competition had already left. Around the square, only a few people left one after another. Meng Bai and the 3 Imperial Capital Academy instructors were sent to the Imperial Capital Academy's medical hall. The medical hall's doctors were flustered as they carefully treated the 4 of them. Jiangda, who was regarded as Meng Bai's trusted aide, was standing at the door worriedly. The deans of the 3 colleges came together. Seeing Jiangda standing at the door, the Holy Academy's Dean Shui immediately asked, "Where is your Dean Meng? Has he woken up?" Jiangda frowned. However, the 3 deans' strength and status were far above his. He could only suppress his anger and lower his head. "Not yet. If the 3 deans have anything to say, you can tell me first. When the dean wakes up, I will pass it on to the dean." Dean Shui looked at Jiangda and said in a deep voice, "In this friendly competition, Meng Bai acted so recklessly and implicated our 3 colleges. The losses are huge. This old man and the other 2 deans believe that Meng Bai has an undeniable responsibility for this. Therefore, your Imperial Capital Academy must make up for all the losses our 3 colleges suffered in this friendly competition." South Central Academy's Dean Luo coldly agreed and argued, "That's right. This loss must be borne by your Imperial Capital Academy. Moreover, whether you agree or not, you must do it. Otherwise, don't blame our 3 colleges for being impolite." "No, you can't do this." Jiang Da's expression changed. Their voices were quite loud and passed through the door into the room. On the bed, Meng Bai's face was as white as paper. His body was covered in a layer of dried blood. His clothes were torn, his white hair was messy, and half of his beard was missing. After the doctor's treatment, his condition improved slightly. After resting for about an hour, he slowly woke up. However, when he woke up, he heard the voices of Dean Shui and Dean Luo outside. Meng Bai was very familiar with their voices. After interacting with them for 20 to 30 years, he could instantly recognize the owner of the voice. When he thought about how he was seriously injured and was like a cripple, and how his former competitors showed no mercy and forced their way to his clinic, Meng Bai was furious. He coughed violently and then spat out a mouthful of blood. Pooh! The bright red blood dyed the white blanket red. It was a shocking sight. The next moment, Meng Bai fell down again. His eyes closed and he fainted. His injuries worsened. Hearing the commotion in the room, Jiang Da's expression changed again. He didn't care about disturbing Meng Bai and pushed the door open. Seeing the dazzling blood stains on the blanket, he couldn't help but exclaim, "Dean!" He turned his head and stared at the 3 deans with deep hatred. "You better pray that nothing happens to the dean. Otherwise, you won't be able to escape responsibility. Emperor Capital College will definitely not let you go." Although Dean Shui, Dean Luo, and Dean Zhang felt guilty, they couldn't help but snort when they saw Jiangda talking to them in such a tone. Lin Feng had no interest in how the people of the 4 colleges were arguing. At this moment, he and Carefree Sovereign had already returned to Qinfeng College. Behind the dozens of teaching buildings, there was a small, quiet, and lush forest courtyard. In the center of the many small courtyards, a group of supreme martial artists and experts from the 6 great clans were gathered in a rather large courtyard. Other than them, there were also Lin Yun, Xie Wenxiang, Wen Han, Fu Yuanshan, Fu Yi, and Han Lin. Lin Feng gathered everyone except the students and told them his plan. Dean Xie, you will be in charge of Qingfeng College from now on. If there are any problems that you can't solve, you can look for my brother, Lin Yun, or Senior Carefree Sovereign. Also, about the division of classes, you should supervise them as soon as possible. You will be in charge of the unified enrollment next year. I have already told you about the enrollment requirements. You can think about it yourself. Lin Feng reminded Xie Wenxiang, Qingfeng College is the fruit of the old dean's blood and sweat. I hope that Dean Xie will take good care of it. This way, the old dean will be able to rest in peace. Xie Wenxiang said solemnly, Dean, don't worry. I will not let you down. He also said in his heart, I will not let my father down. Although Xie Wenxiang did not have much talent in cultivation, nor did he have any talent in refining weapons, he was a natural-born manager. If he were a businessman, he would be a good businessman. If he were an official, he would be a good official. As long as he had a sincere heart, handing the Clear Wind Academy over to him would perhaps be a better choice. Of course, this was only what Lin Feng thought in his heart. He didn't say it out loud. Distance tests a horse's strength, and time reveals a person's heart. Whether he was a mule or a horse, it would be revealed sooner or later. About an incense stick's worth of time later, Lin Feng dismissed everyone, leaving only unfettered Sovereign behind. Lin Feng, why did you ask me to stay? Carefree Sovereign asked curiously. Lin Feng took a deep breath and poured a cup of tea for Carefree Sovereign. He suppressed the excitement in his heart and said with a smile, have some tea first. Carefree Sovereign wasn't in a hurry. He picked up the teacup with one hand and lifted his sleeve with the other, taking a sip. At this time, Lin Feng asked, Senior Carefree, you are the oldest senior this junior knows in the Xingfeng Plain, and also the strongest senior. In terms of experience and knowledge, I don't think many people can compare to you. This junior wants to ask you about a place. Carefree Sovereign chuckled, you don't say. When I was young, I really went to many places. Don't judge the Xingfeng Plain by its small size. It has many secrets unknown to people. Some places are extremely dangerous. Even though I have cultivated to the high-level supremacy stage and mastered the law of strength, one of the 7 strongest laws, I still don't dare to go to some places. In the past, I was able to escape from some dangerous places by relying on luck. Now, I don't have the courage to go there again. I'm old and my courage is small. After a pause, he said with a smile, you can tell me where it is first. If I know where it is, I will tell you everything. Lin Feng's expression eased a little, and he said, the Suiyang realm. The Suiyang realm? Carefree Sovereign looked at Lin Feng in surprise. How do you know about the Suiyang realm? What? Is there some secret in the Suiyang realm? Lin Feng asked. After thinking for a long time, Carefree Sovereign looked at Lin Feng seriously and said, the Suiyang realm is a very special place. With your current strength, you don't have the qualifications to come in contact with it. Even I barely have the qualifications to come in contact with it. If I hadn't reached the high-level supremacy stage and cultivated the law of strength, I wouldn't have the qualifications to know about the existence of the Suiyang realm. Lin Feng, I advise you to increase your strength first. When you break through to the supremacy stage, you don't need to ask around. Naturally, someone will come to you and tell you everything about the Suiyang realm. He took a deep breath, and a trace of seriousness appeared on his face. Before that, don't ask about anything about the Suiyang realm. Because even if someone knows, they won't dare to tell you. Lin Feng said, even if Lord Black Rice and the others appear? Lord Black Rice looked deeply at Lin Feng and said, I know what you're thinking. However, you'd better give up on these thoughts. I admit that Lord Black Rice and the others are very powerful, but there are some things that even if they appear, it's still useless. Alright, that's all I have to say. Let's not talk about this anymore. It was obvious that the unfettered Prime was extremely wary of the so-called Sui-Yang realm. He was also wary of the 3 words Sui-Yang realm. Why don't we talk about when you plan to travel around and learn more about and use your laws? Seeing that Carefree Sovereign was unwilling to talk about it, Lin Feng could only give up and replied, I'm more or less done with my matters. If I want to leave, it should be in a few days. So fast? Carefree Sovereign said in shock. Haha, actually, it's not fast. Lin Feng said with a smile. Besides, we're both sovereigns now. It won't take much time to fly around the Greenwood continent. Even if I leave Zhaodu, it'll only take 2 or 3 days at most if I want to come back. That's true. Carefree Sovereign nodded. Alright, since you've already decided, I won't persuade you anymore. Go out and have a good walk, and carefully study your law of strength. When you come back, we might be able to have a good fight. Lin Feng originally wanted to say, actually, I can have a good fight with you right now. However, he swallowed those words back. He really didn't want to give this old man, who had helped him too much, a blow. P.S. First update begging for monthly votes. Crafting VIP Group 168605329 Crafting Normal Group 204276549. Chapter 327. That night, Lin Feng and Lin Yun chatted for a long time, but most of the time, it was Lin Feng talking and Lin Yun listening. I don't know when I'll be back. It could be a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or even longer. Lin Yun, I don't ask you to cultivate to a certain level, I just hope you don't slack off. Lin Feng looked at Lin Yun solemnly. I can only rest assured if your strength improves. Lin Yun's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. Brother, are you hiding something from me? Lin Feng waved his hand. What can I hide from you? Don't think too much, just cultivate hard. After a pause, he asked, by the way, where's that girl Wei Wei? I haven't seen her even once since I came back. Did Han Chao go back on his word? His expression suddenly turned cold. No, I didn't go to see her. Lin Yun shook his head. I was in a dangerous situation a while ago. I was worried that the sovereigns of the Eternal Continent were coming for me, so I didn't dare to see her for fear of implicating her. Lin Feng's expression relaxed a little. It's good that Han Chao didn't go back on his word. Now that the crisis has been resolved, I think you should go see Han Weiwei and find a time to set a wedding date. This girl has suffered a lot for you. As a man of the Lin family, you must not let down such a good girl. Thinking of that careless girl who was lacking a string in her brain, Lin Yun's face softened with a gentle smile, and his heart was filled with tenderness. I will take good care of her for the rest of my life. I will never let her suffer a little. Lin Yun said firmly. Lin Feng patted him on the shoulder. It's late, you should go rest. And brother, you should also rest early. Lin Yun nodded and then left the room. The next day, Lin Feng bade farewell to everyone and went to Chaoyang Palace alone. He asked Lord Black Rice, Poison Eye, and Kill to look after Qinfeng College and ensure the safety of his brother, Lin Yun. Finally, he met with Emperor Zhao Duo again. Under Zhao Duo's regretful gaze, he returned all the rare materials that he had borrowed from the royal family. Finally, he walked to the east gate of the Zhao capital. Under the morning sun, Lin Feng was full of energy. He wore simple coarse clothes, his hair was tied up casually, and his bangs fluttered in the wind. On his shoulder, Nono's small body jumped around and said excitedly, Boss, this time you can help me find a beautiful female bird, right? Lin Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Can you stop thinking about your female bird? Then what should I be thinking about? Nono blinked. Lin Feng opened his mouth. After a long time, he finally said, "Forget it. Pretend I didn't say anything." Chirp, 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 the joyful chirping of birds lingered around Linfeng. Even the air seemed fresher. Not long after leaving the east gate of the Zhao capital, Linfeng stopped and looked at a young man in front of him in surprise. "Why are you following me?" The young man laughed. "Because I think it's more interesting to follow you." "Where's Miss Qin?" Linfeng asked. "You mean Miss Qin Wulei Qin?" The young man shrugged. "She said she did something wrong to the old principal, so she decided to work in Qingfeng College to atone for her sins. That's roughly what she meant. I didn't understand, so I don't know what she's trying to say." He didn't understand, but Linfeng did. Linfeng was silent for a moment. He sighed and shook his head. If she knew this would happen, she wouldn't have done it. Why? Did she really do something bad? The young man asked curiously. Linfeng shook his head. "Let bygones be bygones. Why are you following me?" The young man said, "Didn't I say just now? I think it's more interesting to follow you, so I followed you." "It's that simple?" Linfeng looked at him suspiciously. "It's that simple." He looked at Linfeng calmly. After staring at each other for a long time, Linfeng admitted defeat. "Fine, follow me if you want." The young man smiled faintly. "Haha." This person was none other than Huang Wenbing, a genius from the Huang family, one of the 8 great clans. He was a young elementary supreme martial artist. After walking for about 2 hours, Huang Wenbing asked, "Do you have a specific destination in mind?" Linfeng shook his head. "I haven't thought about where to go. Anyway, I'll go around the Greenwood continent. First, I'll go to the Great Qin Empire. When I reach the easternmost part, I'll turn south and go to the Han Dynasty. Then, I'll go northwest and go back to my hometown. If I have the chance, I can also go to the Setting Sun Plain and the Monster Forest. I'll try my best to explore the entire Greenwood continent. This way, I should be able to gain something." Huang Wenbing's eyes widened. "You're really daring." Although their walking speed was much faster than ordinary people, it would take at least 8 to 10 years to walk around the Greenwood continent. The Greenwood continent could be said to be big or small. If a high-level supreme martial artist went all out, he could fly back and forth in a day. But if he walked, this time would be increased by 1,000 times. And these 2 elementary supreme martial artists would need even more time, at least several times more than a high-level supreme martial artist. Linfeng didn't care at all. "I didn't ask you to follow. You're the one who wanted to follow. It's not too late for you to leave now." "Who said I'm leaving?" Huang Wenbing said. "Don't worry. Even if you chase me away, I won't leave." In fact, he had such an idea a long time ago. But at that time, he wasn't strong enough, so he didn't say it out loud. Now that he had the chance and companions, it was exactly what he wanted. Like he said, even if Linfeng chased him away, he wouldn't leave. "Kid, you can follow us, but you have to listen to my boss," Nono said. Huang Wenbing was shocked again. "A demonic beast that can talk," Nono said unhappily. "What's so strange about a demonic beast that can talk?" "Kid, don't be so surprised. Follow boss and you'll see more magical things sooner or later. Also, I have a name too. You can call me." Its eyes turned. "Call me second brother Nono, got it?" It spoke like an old man, as if it was very old. Supreme martial artist demonic beasts are rare. Huang Wenbing muttered in his heart. But on the surface, he was full of enthusiasm. "Second brother Nono, don't worry. I promise to listen to boss." Nono said with satisfaction, "Good, good. Seeing that you're so obedient, I'll reluctantly accept you as my little brother." Become a supreme martial artist's little brother? Huang Wenbing's eyes widened. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In all honesty, he only said it casually, but in the end he really became its little brother. "You can't trick him like this." Nono looked at him deeply and said, You should be glad that not everyone has the qualifications to be my, Nono's, little brother. If it wasn't for the fact that I find you pleasing to the eye, I wouldn't be willing to accept you as my little brother." Huang Wenbing was even more depressed. He was forcefully accepted as a little brother, and he was supposed to be glad? What kind of logic was this in the world? But he couldn't reason with Nono. Have you ever seen a human talk reason with a demonic beast? There was no way to explain it clearly. While they were talking, the two people and the bird had already walked far away. Zhao Dou's full appearance was blurred, only a vague outline could be seen. In front of them was a forest. On both sides of the forest were trees. But autumn had already passed and winter had arrived. The leaves were yellow and fell to the ground, showing a bit of desolation. They continued to go deeper into the forest. As far as the eye could see, the mountains were covered with withered leaves and the wind was rustling. Lin Feng walked while observing. His impetuous heart slowly calmed down, without the slightest ripple. Far away from the hustle and bustle of the mortal world, everything around him seemed incomparably peaceful. His heart was closer to nature. Although he didn't have any comprehension, Lin Feng's mood was incomparably comfortable. It was as if he had returned to his mother's embrace. A sense of familiarity naturally pervaded the surroundings. Even the cold wind blowing against his face seemed charming. What kind of law did I comprehend? Lin Feng quietly pondered. He had asked this question to the free and unfettered sovereign, Star Sovereign, and the others. He had even asked Lord Blackrice, Poison Eye, and Killer, the three Earth Saints. However, even with the knowledge of these seniors, they didn't recognize what law he comprehended. This made Lin Feng even more puzzled. The law of Earth was divided into many types. Among them, the 7 strongest laws that everyone recognized were the law of time, the law of space, the law of life, the law of soul, the law of amplitude, the law of strength, and the law of gravity. In addition to the 7 strongest laws, there were many other laws, such as the law of fate, the law of prophecy, the law of speed, the law of water, the law of fire, the law of wood, the law of wind, the law of thunder, the law of light, the law of darkness, the law of sound, and so on. Among them, the law of fate, the law of prophecy, and the law of speed were second only to the 7 strongest laws. They were first-class laws with great power. When comprehended to a high level, they could even be comparable to the 7 strongest laws. Regarding this, Lin Feng had consulted many seniors and also flipped through many ancient books to cram in knowledge of the laws. It was just that among the known laws, he didn't find any law that was the same as the one he comprehended. "Boss, what are you thinking about?" Nono flew out to play and returned to Lin Feng's shoulder. Huang Wenbing also walked over from the side and looked curiously at Lin Feng. Lin Feng said frankly, "I'm thinking about what kind of law I've comprehended. If I don't even know what kind of law I've comprehended, how can I study it and use it?" His tone was full of helplessness. Nono said, "Boss, I suspect that the law you've comprehended is a kind of mixed law." In fact, it already had this guess, but without evidence, it didn't dare to be sure. Mixed law? How come I've never heard of this law? Huang Wenbing was a bit shocked. He was the young master of the 8 great clans, but his understanding of the laws couldn't compare to a supreme beast. Nono said proudly, "Of course you haven't heard of it, because the mixed law isn't a law at all. It's a combination of several laws, forming a unique fusion law. The mixed law's power is great. Fighting above one's level is as easy as drinking water. Some mixed laws are even more terrifying than the 7 strongest laws." Hiss! Huang Wenbing sucked in a breath of cold air. P.S. The second update is here, there will be a third later. Crafting VIP Group 168605329 Crafting VIP Group 204276549. Chapter 328. While Huang Wenbing was shocked, Lin Feng was also shocked. That's amazing! In that case, those who have comprehended mixed laws of nature are the most powerful? Huang Wenbing looked forward to it and was also very envious. If only I could comprehend mixed laws of nature. Lin Feng also heaved a sigh of relief. Wrong. Nono looked at Huang Wenbing. Those who have comprehended mixed laws of nature are indeed powerful. However, those who can truly stand at the peak are few and far between. Hearing this, Lin Feng frowned. He had a bad feeling about this. Didn't you say mixed laws of nature are powerful? Huang Wenbing asked. Nono said, mixed laws of nature are powerful, but they have a fatal flaw. Lin Feng asked anxiously, what flaw? This problem will involve the Earth Sage. Let's put it this way. Generally speaking, when you fully comprehend a law and use it freely, you will step into the Earth Saint level. However, this is only the beginner Earth Saint level. If you want to advance to the intermediate Earth Saint level, you must comprehend a second law and fully comprehend it. If you want to advance to the advanced Earth Saint level, you must comprehend a third law and fully comprehend it. Great Perfection Earth Saint level is even more terrifying because it requires the fusion of 3 different laws of nature to form a mixed law. Just this point alone is enough to stop most advanced Earth Saints from advancing. It can be said that out of 100 million advanced Earth Saints, there might not even be one Great Perfection Earth Saint. You can imagine how terrifying a Great Perfection Earth Saint level is. A mixed law formed by the fusion of 3 laws of nature is even thousands of times stronger than the 7 ultimate laws of nature. It is because of this that Great Perfection Earth Saints can defeat advanced Earth Saints. But what does this have to do with the flaw you mentioned? Huang Wenbing frowned. Of course it has to do with it, Nono said seriously. Every Great Perfection Earth Saint level has fused 3 or more laws of nature. Their laws are the mixed laws of nature that I mentioned earlier. Now that Boss had directly comprehended the hybrid laws, it meant that he had directly skipped the previous steps and stood at the level of Great Perfection Earthly Saint. However, Boss had only comprehended a little bit of the hybrid laws. Therefore, compared to a true Great Perfection Earthly Saint, Boss was thousands of miles away. Therefore, I'm afraid that it'll be very difficult for Boss to cultivate to the Earth Saint realm in this lifetime, because cultivation is a gradual process. However, Boss hasn't experienced this process, nor has he had the opportunity to experience it. Comprehending the hybrid laws on his first try is already a great stroke of luck. If he wants to continue comprehending it, it'll be very difficult. These words were like a bolt from the blue, causing Lin Feng's heart to sink to the bottom. His expression was extremely ugly. Fate seemed to have played a joke on him. Huang Wenbing opened his mouth, but he didn't know how to comfort him. If he tried to comfort him now, it would undoubtedly make him feel like he was just standing there and talking. Lin Feng looked down at Nono and asked, "Has anyone done it before?" Nono thought for a while and nodded. "I think so, but I don't know who it is." "Someone has done it before." Lin Feng's expression slowly became firm. "If others can do it, then I can do it too." With the first space, there was no reason for him to lose to others. No matter how terrifying the other party's talent was, it wasn't an excuse. Huang Wenbing's heart was filled with admiration. "If it were me, what would I do?" Thinking of this, he couldn't help but shake his head. If it were him facing this situation, even if he didn't say it out loud, he would definitely be very discouraged. Seeing Nono's eyes darting around, Lin Feng laughed and scolded, "If you have something to say, just say it. Don't hide it. I can even take this kind of blow. What kind of blow can't I take?" Nono smiled. "This time, it's not bad news. It's good news." "Oh? Good news?" Lin Feng looked at Nono suspiciously and said in a bad mood, "Let's hear it. What kind of good news?" Huang Wenbing also put away his thoughts and turned his attention to Nono. He looked at it curiously without blinking. Nono was anxious. This time, it's really good news. It spoke very quickly. Boss, although it's very difficult for you to cultivate to the level of Earth Sage, if you can really fully comprehend the mixed laws, then your cultivation will directly leap from the limit of supremacy to the great circle of Earth Sage. You won't need to go through the 3 stages of elementary Earth Sage, intermediate Earth Sage, and advanced Earth Sage. Moreover, even if you can't break through to Earth Sage, your combat strength will still be very impressive. In theory, you, who are at the limit of supremacy, can also have strength infinitely close to the great circle of Earth Sage. Although this is more than 10 times more difficult than breaking through from the advanced Earth Sage to the great circle of Earth Sage, I believe that you can do it, boss. Huang Wenbing's eyes widened. Directly breaking through from the limit of supremacy to the legendary great circle of Earth Sage was simply unbelievable. This is indeed good news. The pressure on Lin Feng was imperceptibly reduced by a lot, but there was a trace of bitterness at the corner of his mouth. Looks like I'm destined to walk the path of pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Just think about it. One day, a peak supreme being could actually defeat a high-level Earth Sage. How crazy would that be? Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Nono blinked. What do you mean? Lin Feng shook his head. It's nothing. Oh right, boss, other than this good news, I have another good news to tell you, Nono said. Hurry up and say it. Lin Feng glared at it. If you have something to say it all at once. Don't leave half of it behind. Nono said, actually, I said it just now, but I didn't say it clearly enough. The reason why the mixed laws are so strong is not only because of the great increase in power after the laws are fused, but also because the mixed laws are very easy to control. There's no need to separate the laws into different branches like other laws. Lin Feng held his breath. Why didn't you say so earlier? You didn't ask me before. Nono looked at Lin Feng wrongly. You. Lin Feng sighed. Sigh. He really didn't know what to do with Nono. Fortunately, he coincidentally found out about these things today. Otherwise, who knows how long he would have to walk on this detour. But, if you can't separate the laws, then how do you maximize the power of the mixed laws? Lin Feng asked curiously. Huang Wenbing was like a curious baby, intoxicated as he listened. He believed that he was very knowledgeable and knew many things that outsiders didn't. But in front of Nono, he felt like an illiterate from the countryside. He didn't know anything, so he was curious about everything. It's very simple. Others separate a single law into different branches, but boss, you separate a mixed law into different branches. Nono said. A mixed law contains at least 3 different types of laws. These 3 types of laws definitely belong to 3 different types: attack type, defense type, and speed type. So you only need to carefully understand the mixed law you've comprehended and feel the characteristics of the mixed law. It shouldn't be hard to separate them. At least, it's much easier than separating a single law into different branches. Lin Feng muttered. So you're saying that I only need to figure out which laws the mixed law I've comprehended is formed from, then I can use these laws? It's that simple. Nono praised. Boss is indeed the boss. You're really smart. However, to separate a mixed law, one also needed to understand the earth and be close to nature. It seemed that this journey was unavoidable. Although this path is thousands of times harder than I thought, at least I can see the future clearly and know what to do. Lin Feng didn't come out empty-handed. At least, he had a better understanding of his current situation and knew what he should do. Taking a deep breath, he calmed down and said, "Let's go." With that, he took a step forward with a gentle smile on his face. He quietly walked forward. Every step was incomparably firm and calm. He really doesn't care at all? Huang Wenbing scratched his head. He didn't understand Lin Feng at all. He really is a strange person. Kid, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and follow. Nono shouted from the front. Huang Wenbing had no choice but to quicken his pace and follow. Nono lectured like an old man. You have to remember that you're my little brother. If I tell you to go east, you can't go west. You have to listen to everything I say. Also, my boss is your boss. You're not allowed to call him Boss Linfeng anymore. You have to call him boss, understand? Huang Wenbing nodded dumbly. Oh! A what? Hurry up and call him boss. Boss! I'm not telling you to call me boss. Call me boss. Oh, boss. You? I told you to call Linfeng boss. Linfeng boss. You're pissing me off. Alright, Nono. Don't make things difficult for Brother Huang. Linfeng couldn't take it anymore. He said Nono and then apologized to Huang Wenbing. Nono has always been naughty. I hope Brother Huang doesn't take it to heart. Nono flapped its wings unhappily. Boss, can you not treat me like a child? Then it turned to stare at Huang Wenbing. Don't think you can get away with it just because boss is speaking for you. Hurry up and call him boss. Huang Wenbing looked at Linfeng and blinked innocently. Then he slowly said, Boss. Linfeng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Brother Huang, that's a good boy. Nono nodded with satisfaction. Remember, call me that from now on. When I'm in a good mood, I might give you a surprise. As for what the surprise was, it didn't say. Time flowed by. Day and night alternated, and the stars moved. Day after day passed quietly. In the desert, in the forest, beside the volcano, beside the river, they had left their footprint. Linfeng, Nuan, and Huang Wenbing's figures had appeared in many places. Lin Feng's state of mind had become calmer and more refined, like an ancient well without ripples. His temperament was also undergoing a huge change. The temperature dropped, and light snow gradually came. Before they knew it, they had already passed through the eastern part of Zhao and crossed the border between Zhao and Great Qin. Then they passed through 2 western provinces of Great Qin and gradually approached the Great Qin imperial capital. Today they entered the city for the first time since leaving Zhao. They were ready to experience the scenery of a foreign land. P.S. The 3rd update is now available. Making up for the first update, there are still 5 more. Begging for votes. Refining VIP Group 168605329. Refining VIP Group 204276549. Chapter 329. The sky was as clean and flawless as if it had been washed. It was now close to winter, but the people of the Great Qin Empire were still wearing thin clothes. They were all burly, and even the height of an ordinary woman would make a man blush with shame. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to find a petite woman here. Both men and women revered martial strength. Not to mention cultivators, even the ordinary people had strength that ordinary people did not have. This was a country with a valiant culture. Dan City was the provincial capital of the Dongyang City province, located in the west of the central region of the Great Qin Empire. It was adjacent to the Great Qin Empire's capital, Dan City. The population here was very dense, and it was even quite crowded. Due to the purple blood demon sage's domineering arrival and undefiable orders, the people who used to live in the northern part of the Great Qin Empire migrated here, making this city even more lively. The New Year's Eve had just passed, and every household was decorated with lanterns and colored banners. The atmosphere of the New Year's Eve had not completely dissipated, and everyone was smiling from the bottom of their hearts. Outside Dan City, on the street paved with countless flat stone slabs, 2 figures slowly walked over. On the left was a young man in his late 20s, wearing coarse hemp clothes. Compared to the men of the Great Qin Empire, he was slightly shorter and skinnier. His expression was calm, and his eyes were as deep as a black hole unfathomable. His body emitted a faintly discernible wave, as if he was an unreal person. He was right in front of them, but seemed to be separated by a natural chasm that could shatter and vanish at any time. On the right was a young man in his early 30s, dressed like a member of an aristocratic family. He had a faint aura of nobility and a faint smile on his lips. On the shoulder of the young man on the left was a beautiful and cute little bird. However, the little bird was very naughty, stepping here and there on the young man's shoulder, chirping incessantly. A two-person team like this was quite rare. They were Lin Feng, Huang Wenbing, and the supreme demon beast, No, who had traveled a long way to comprehend nature. Dan City is right in front. Huang Wenbing smiled. We can finally see a living person. I haven't seen a single person these days, either in the desert or deep in the forest. I almost thought I was a savage. No, why don't I feel that way? Huang Wenbing, you're a demon beast, of course you don't feel that way. What about the boss? Isn't he human too? No retorted. Boss, ugh. Huang Wenbing shrugged his head weakly. Boss is a monster. How can I compare to him? Even now, he still completely recognized Lin Feng as his boss, because in the past month, Lin Feng had shown him what true perseverance was. If it weren't for Lin Feng as an example, he was sure that he wouldn't have been able to persevere. Lin Feng smiled calmly. Actually, this is nothing. As long as you calm down, you won't feel bored at all. As he spoke, his tone was as gentle as a mountain stream, refreshing the mind. I also want to calm my heart down, but I can't. Huang Wenbing shook his head and said, a day or two is fine, but a month or two, or even a year or two, I definitely won't be able to hold on. Boss, how did you do it? He looked at Lin Feng curiously. It's just a habit, Lin Feng said. You'll get used to it after a few more times. In the number 1 space, Lin Feng had been practicing alone for years or even decade. Such practice had already tempered Lin Feng's heart to be invulnerable. Compared to that, the 1-month journey in the outside world was nothing. At least, it was much easier than Lin Feng's self-torture training in the number 1 space. It was even enjoyable. Habit? Huang Wenbing waved his hand and said, I don't think I can get used to it. No suddenly said, Boss, look. There are so many people over there. Why are they all walking in our direction? As far as the eye could see, there were indeed a lot of people walking in group. What was strange was that there would be a young man or a young girl in every group. They were all very young, generally no more than 16 years old. Among them, there was no lack of people with good cultivation. With one look, one could tell that they were good seedlings with excellent foundation. Those people were walking west in groups with excited and expectant expressions. They were either sitting in carriages or riding horses. It was a lively scene. The large group of people formed a long dragon that meandered for thousands of meters. It was quite spectacular. Huang Wenbing asked curiously, Right, where are they going? Looking at the two curious babies, Lin Feng said softly, Let's go. If we want to know what's going on, we can ask in the city. That's true. Huang Wenbing scratched his head. Let's go. Let's hurry up and enter the city. Soon, the two of them paid 2 refined stones and entered Dan City. They found an inn and walked into the hall. They didn't ask for a private room and simply sat down in the hall. Waiter, Huang Wenbing shouted as soon as he sat down. A waiter replied loudly, Hey, what can I do for you, sir? He walked over quickly as he spoke. What good wine and dishes do you have here? Hurry up and give us a table. Sir, you don't know, right? Every dish in our restaurant is delicious, and every wine is a rare treasure. The waiter was long-winded for a long time before he finally said, So, sir, you'd better tell us what dishes and wine you want. This is the menu. There are corresponding pictures on it. Okay. Just give us all the dishes in your restaurant. Same for the wine. Huang Wenbing pushed the menu to the side and said generously. The people around the hall fell silent. They glanced at Huang Wenbing and were a little surprised. Okay, sir, please wait a moment. The waiter beamed with joy. After this small episode, the crowd turned back and continued their discussion. There was a trace of reverence in their words. Hey, let me tell you, Chinfeng College is really amazing. Of course I know that. Which college in the world can compare to Chinfeng College? TSK. 36 Supreme Level Mentors. That's not a joke. Not to mention our Dan City. Even the geniuses in the imperial capital withdrew from their original colleges and went to Chinfeng College to participate in the unified admission test. Alas, it's a pity that my son is useless. His talent is as bad as a pile of dog shit. Otherwise, I would have let him try. It seems that you know something. Then I'll tell you something you don't know. You know Master Yuan, right? Our Dan City's 5-star refiner, a 9th-rank Earth warrior. My second uncle works at Master Yuan's residence. Last night, I heard from him that Master Yuan decided to send his last disciple, Li Wenjin, to Chinfeng College. Really? My second uncle heard it with his own ears. How can it be fake? But this is normal. That's Chinfeng College, a college with 36 supreme-level mentors. As long as you enter that college after graduation, your strength will not be weak. What's more, if you have a conflict with others, you can just tell them your identity. Who would dare to provoke you? Only those who are tired of living would dare to go against 36 supreme-level mentors. Yes. If you enter Chinfeng College, your future will be limitless. Students taught by 36 supreme-level mentors can at least reach the 7th or 8th level of cultivation, right? I didn't expect that even the people here know about Chinfeng College. Lin Feng smiled. Huang Wenbing sighed with emotion. Indeed, no one can refuse such a college. It's a pity that I was born at the wrong time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had to work so hard all these years. Lin Feng shook his head. No matter how powerful the mentors are, the students have to work hard themselves. What's more, Chinfeng College is not as powerful as everyone says. Originally, there was no problem with this sentence. However, Lin Feng did not expect that as soon as he said it, he would incur the wrath of the crowd. A group of people who were talking excitedly around him suddenly shut their mouths and turned to look at Lin Feng with unfriendly eyes. The hall instantly quieted down. Brat, what do you mean by this? A middle-aged man stood up with a swoosh. He stared at Lin Feng fiercely. I just finished talking about how powerful Chinfeng College is, and you turn around and say that Chinfeng College is not powerful. What? Do you think I said something wrong? That's right. Do you know what kind of college Chinfeng College is? It is a college with 36 supreme-level mentors. How can you insult it? What's more, Chinfeng College does not have a nationality requirement for enrollment. Not only can people from Zhao Kingdom apply, but people from Great Qin can also apply. This is the most selfless, the greatest, and the most sacred college in history. Whoever insults Chinfeng College is going against me. You better apologize obediently. Otherwise, I don't mind teaching you a lesson on behalf of Chinfeng College. The crowd slowly stood up and surrounded Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing in the center. They looked like they were going to fight at any time. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Huang Wenbing sent a telepathic message in astonishment. Boss, since when did Chinfeng College become so powerful? Even the people from the Great Qin Empire have been conquered. Nono said mockingly, Hee boss, let's see what you can do now. Lin Feng did not know whether to laugh or cry. He had not said anything bad about the Clear Wind Academy and had only spoken the truth. But with just that one sentence, he had incurred the wrath of the crowd. This was indeed beyond his expectations. He was the dean of Chinfeng College. He was surrounded by a group of people from the Great Qin Empire just because he said something bad about Chinfeng College. If this news spread out, he would become a laughingstock. If these people knew that Lin Feng was the dean of Chinfeng College, who they respected so much, what would they think? Just when Lin Feng was feeling awkward and did not know how to respond, the sound of slapping came from outside. Clap, clap, clap. At the gate, a cynical young man walked in while laughing. As he approached Lin Feng, he said disdainfully, "Apologize? Why should I apologize? I feel that this brother is right. Qingfeng College is not a big deal at all. So what if they have 36 supreme martial artists? Don't tell me the students they teach can soar to the sky?" The crowd was angry and turned to look at him. However, as soon as their eyes fell on the young man, they immediately swallowed their words. Their faces were full of fear and respect. They said in unison, "Greetings, 7th young master. P.S. First update. Seeking votes. Equipment refining VIP group. 168605329 equipment." Chapter 330. No one dared to voice their displeasure at this mysterious 7th young master. Many looked at the 7th young master with fear in their eyes. Seeing their gazes, the 7th young master smiled faintly. "What? Did I say something wrong? What's with that expression? You don't like it?" Everyone lowered their heads even more and said, "We are convinced, we are convinced." It was obvious that this 7th young master's identity wasn't ordinary, and his personality wasn't friendly either. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so afraid of him. "Boss, it looks like this guy's background isn't small." Nono chuckled. Its personality was to stir up trouble. Lin Feng looked helplessly at Nono. "I think it's better if you keep your mouth shut." Huang Wenbing looked up and down at the 7th young master, one hand propping up his chin, trying to guess his identity. Satisfied with their answers, the 7th young master waved his hand. "That's enough, Scram." Everyone instantly felt as if they'd been granted amnesty, and they scattered like birds and beasts. In the time of a few breaths, besides Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing, there was no one else in the hall. Even the attendant of the inn had hidden himself secretly and didn't dare to come over to speak. Lin Feng looked at the guards at the gate, whose strength had reached the 8th rank, thoughtfully. To be able to have a few earth warriors of the 8th step as guards, his identity was definitely not ordinary. "You too, do you mind if I sit down?" Although the 7th young master asked, he didn't wait for Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing to answer before sitting down, as if certain that Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing wouldn't refuse. Lin Feng glanced at him, not saying anything. Huang Wenbing said with interest, "We don't own this inn, you can sit wherever you want." "Straightforward," the 7th young master praised. "I like straightforward people like you." Then, he smiled faintly, "Let me introduce myself first. I am the Lord of Dan City, the 7th son of the current emperor of the Qin Empire, Ing Hai." His introduction was more formal, even changing his title to Gu. Young Master Ing Hai, also known as the 7th young master, was the 7th prince of the Qin Empire. Huang Wenbing said in surprise, "So it's your highness, the 7th prince. Pardon my disrespect." However, his tone was the same as usual and did not change much. He was just a mere prince, and he had no interest in flattering him. Lin Feng's expression did not change. He sat there like an old monk, quietly waiting for the waiter to serve the dishes. Seeing that the two did not have much of a reaction, Ing Hai was surprised and asked, "Looking at your skin color and figure, you are different from the Qin people. Are you warriors from the Zhao or Han dynasty?" He is, but I'm not." Huang Wenbing pointed at Lin Feng. After that short sentence, he didn't say anything else. Seeing this, Ing Hai was somewhat dissatisfied. He had already introduced himself, but Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing had no intention of revealing their identities. Facing him, the great Qin Empire's prince, the two did not show any respect and treated him as an ordinary person. This made him very unhappy. However, Lin Feng's words against the Clear Wind Academy were to his liking, so he suppressed his anger for the time being and changed the topic. I agree with what the two of you have said. This place is too shabby and unsuitable for the two of you. Why don't the two of you return with me and have a good drink? Huang Wenbing glanced at Lin Feng and shrugged. I don't mind, but my boss doesn't seem to be interested. So, thank you for your hospitality, seventh prince, but we'll just eat something here. Ing Hai was startled and frowned. He then calmed down and said, Fine, since the two of you don't want to trouble me, I won't force you. After a long time, Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing still didn't have any intention of speaking. Ing Hai had no choice but to stand up slowly and say, I feel like old friends with the two of you. If you don't mind, you can come to me for help if you encounter any difficulties in the future. I don't dare to say anything else, but in Dan City, my words carry enormous weight. Nothing can stop me. After that, he stood up and left without any hesitation. If we really encounter something that we can't solve, how can he solve it? Huang Wenbing curled his lips and said with disdain. Nono said, What an arrogant guy. Every time he says it's annoying. How great does he think he is? Lin Feng turned his head and glanced at Huang Wenbing. He said indifferently, The two of you should stop talking. Outside the door, Ing Hai's eyes flashed with a cold light. I lowered myself to befriend them and help them out of kindness. They actually insulted me behind my back. They really don't know how to appreciate kindness. That little pudding bird is also strange. Not only is it beautiful, but it can also speak. If I give it to Miss Jing, she should be very happy, right? Ing Hai turned and said to the two guards behind him, You two keep an eye on them. When they leave Dan City, immediately kill them and bring that little bird back. Remember, that little bird must be alive. If it's dead, I'll hold you responsible. This subordinate obeys. Let's go. Then, Ing Hai left the inn under the protection of the other two guards. The two guards who stayed behind immediately left the entrance and found an inconspicuous place to hide and silently monitor the inn. After a long time, the inn's manservant appeared, trembling with fear. He ran to the entrance and looked carefully before shouting to the side of the inn, Innkeeper, the seventh young master has left. Phew! On the side of the inn, a small door opened. A middle-aged man exhaled deeply, his face covered in cold sweat, and walked out. He advised Lin Feng and Nono, You two better leave quickly. Otherwise, Sai, even if you leave now, you probably won't be able to escape. Huang Wenbing asked doubtfully, Innkeeper, what do you mean? The middle-aged man sighed and said with sympathy, You may not know, but the seventh young master is known throughout Dan City for being extremely petty, vengeful, and ruthless. However, his status is noble and he has many experts around him. The common people can only be angry but don't dare to say anything. You've offended him just now. He won't let you go. Offended? Huang Wenbing shook his head. When did we offend him? You rejected his invitation and slighted him. If this isn't offending him, then what is? The middle-aged man said matter-of-factly, In short, he won't let you go. You'd better leave quickly. Maybe if you leave quickly, there's still a little hope. Huang Wenbing and Nono were dumbfounded. Just because of this? They had a better understanding of the seventh young master's character. So the gentlemanly demeanor of the seventh young master was all an act? But since we've offended him, he can do whatever he wants. Huang Wenbing didn't care. Innkeeper, when will our food be served? We've been waiting for a long time. The innkeeper looked at the calm Lin Feng and the carefree Huang Wenbing, a little surprised. You're still concerned about food. Do you know how dangerous your situation is? The innkeeper reminded them. Huang Wenbing waved his hand. This is our business. Don't worry about it. You. The innkeeper pointed at the two, then waved his sleeve. Fine. Since you're looking for death, I won't care. He turned and walked away, ordering the servant, Hurry up and tell the kitchen to prepare the food. Yes, innkeeper. The servant immediately ran to the kitchen. Huang Wenbing, on the other hand, chuckled meaningfully. Courting death? You don't know who's looking for death. Lin Feng said, Don't forget what you promised me. Don't stir up trouble. Although this guy isn't much, there will be trouble if you kill him. Hearing this, Huang Wenbing immediately lost his temper and said helplessly, Fine, fine. I won't touch him, okay? Boring, really boring. If you're bored, you can leave. Fine. Pretend I didn't say anything. Huang Wenbing decisively shut his mouth. Nono was gloating at the side. Hee, little soldier, I told you long ago, don't talk back to your boss. See, now you're in trouble. Little Bing Bing, Huang Wenbing's face darkened. Didn't you say you wouldn't give me random nicknames in the future? I didn't give you random nicknames. I gave you serious nicknames. I was wrong, second brother Nono. Please forgive me. I was wrong. Huang Wenbing was about to cry. After a while, the waiter carried a tray and placed a few dishes on it. But the way he looked at Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing was full of sympathy and pity, as if he was looking at dead people. Huang Wenbing was not used to people looking at him like that. So he coughed and said, Hurry up and serve the dishes. Yes. The waiter sped up and stood far away. In the end, under the waiter's stunned expression, the big table of dishes was finished by Huang Wenbing and Lin Feng. No, Nono should be included. 2 people and a bird ate at a slow speed, but it only took them a moment to finish all the dishes. It was very strange. The manservant looked at their flat stomachs, then looked at his own stomach and muttered foolishly, Where did all the food go? After paying the bill, Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing left. The waiter came to the table and looked at the dishes after the wind and clouds. His expression was quite interesting. They're coming out. The 2 guards who had been watching Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing from outside the restaurant immediately raised their spirits and followed them. Although Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing had already noticed their presence, they pretended not to see and walked leisurely, as if nothing had happened. After about half an incense stick's time, the 2 arrived at the east gate of Dan City. Outside the gate, 3 carriages rushed over. It's Jing Yuren's carriage. The 2 guards who secretly followed Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing were startled. Yuren, this was a respectful title for women in the Great Qin Empire. It generally referred to women who had high attainments in a certain field, such as zither, chess, calligraphy, painting, music, embroidery, refining, etc. As long as one had high attainments in any one of these fields, they could be called Yuren. However, Yuren was more often used to describe young women. Although there were women over 30 years old who were called Yuren, they could be counted with one's fingers. These people basically had extraordinary identities. Lin Feng suddenly stopped and frowned slightly. In the carriage at the front, the coachman also shouted, Be careful, and pulled the reins, trying to stop the horse. However, the horse was too fast and couldn't stop in such a short distance. 10 feet in front of the horse, a young man was holding a 2 or 3-year-old child. He was terrified because he and the child couldn't dodge in time. Wah! The child was so frightened that he cried on the spot. The surrounding people couldn't help but close their eyes, not daring to face this tragic scene. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, the horse neighed loudly, Nay! When they opened their eyes, they couldn't help but exclaim, He's actually fine. This was simply amazing. The young man hurriedly squatted down and carefully checked the child. Then, he hugged the child in his arms and felt a lingering fear. It's good that he's fine, it's good that he's fine. No one saw that at the side of the carriage, Lin Feng was walking calmly, neither fast nor slow. Huang Wenbing followed behind with a smile. Compared to the surrounding people who were stunned and didn't move, Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing's actions were clearly different. However, everyone's attention was on the young man and the child, so no one noticed the 2 of them. In the middle carriage, the window curtain was pulled up. A beautiful woman with a tall nose and a pair of big eyes turned her gaze from the front to Lin Feng. She blinked and seemed to be thinking about something. P.S. The second update is available. Weapon Refining VIP Group 168605329 Ordinary Weapon. Chapter 331. The woman's eyes only stayed on Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing for 3 breaths, then she put down the curtain and lightly walked down the carriage. She was like a fairy, elegant and natural. Her temperament was pure and untainted, and she was otherworldly. "I'm sorry." The woman apologized. "Are you hurt?" The coachman looked at the woman with shame. "I'm sorry, Jingyu, the horse was too fast, I couldn't stop it." The woman shook her head, gently said, "It's okay." The young man gently let go of the child in his arms, frowned, "We're fine. But you better be careful when driving the carriage in the future." "I'm sorry, sir, we will be careful next time." The woman sincerely apologized and suggested, "Why don't we go to the clinic? I'm afraid the child will be frightened, and it will affect his health." She gently squatted down, stroked the child's forehead. Under her comfort, the child gradually stopped crying and calmed down. He looked at her curiously, blinking his eyes innocently. Seeing this, the young man was also worried about the consequences of his child, so he nodded in agreement. "Then I'll have to trouble you, miss." The woman smiled. "Let's go." Outside the city. "Boss, that woman just now looks pretty good." Huang Wenbing shook his head and commented. Halfway through, he suddenly asked, "By the way, boss, you're not young anymore, when are you going to find us a sister-in-law?" At the mention of this, Nono also became interested and joined in the discussion. Yes, boss, you should quickly find us a sister-in-law and give birth to one." "Oh no, a pair. That's not right either. It should be a group of children. When the time comes, they will have to call me second uncle." Then he laughed. "I think that woman just now is not bad, she's very beautiful, worthy of boss." Lin Feng stared at Nono. "Can beauty feed you?" Huang Wenbing winked. "Isn't there an idiom that says beauty is a feast for the eyes? Looks like being pretty can really make a living. Then you can eat slowly." Lin Feng quickened his pace and reminded, "There are 2 guys following behind us. Let's get rid of them first." Huang Wenbing released his spiritual force and scanned the area. The figures of the 2 rank 8 Earth warriors were instantly captured by him. "You should be glad that you're lucky. If it wasn't for the fact that boss doesn't want to cause trouble, you'd probably be 2 corpses by now," Huang Wenbing muttered. Almost at the same time, Lin Feng, Huang Wenbing, and Nono's figures disappeared with a whoosh. The 2 rank 8 Earth warriors who were following closely behind them suddenly widened their eyes. "What the hell?" The 2 of them glanced at each other before charging out successively, and then they split up and searched the surroundings. In the end, their search was fruitless, causing their expressions to become unprecedentedly heavy. "There's no other way. We can only go back and tell the truth to the 7th young master." An Earth warrior of the 8th step took a deep breath and smiled bitterly. The other person nodded helplessly. "That's the only way." Although they knew that once Ing Hai found out that they had returned empty-handed and had not done what he had told them to do, he would be furious and severely punish them. But they had no other choice, because the consequences of directly escaping would be more serious than this. They knew the character of the 7th young master better than outsiders. After leaving Dan City, Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing avoided the official roads and went deep into the famous mountains and rivers. What happened in Dan City was forgotten in the blink of an eye. A little 7th prince was not worth their attention. Not to mention the 7th prince, even if the great Qin emperor himself came, they might not be interested in paying attention to him. For the next month, they were shuttling through the uninhabited wilderness. At this time, it was already late winter. Everywhere on the continent, especially in the north, the temperature was extremely low, and white snow was swirling in the air. From the initial light snow, it had now become a heavy snow, covering the earth and decorating it with snow. The birds and beasts that used to chirp incessantly had disappeared without a trace. The surface of the river was also frozen, forming a thick layer of ice. Ordinary people walking on the ice did not need to worry about falling into the river. The fish that used to like to float to the surface of the water swam to the bottom of the river, some burrowing into the river sand, and some burrowing into the crevices of the river. It could be said that the birds of 1,000 mountains have disappeared, and the people have disappeared. The entire earth was incomparably poignant. But in this poignant beauty, one could not feel a trace of life, as if it was a ditch of dead water. No matter where he went, the surrounding scenery almost did not change. As far as the eye could see, it was full of flying snow and snow-covered mountains and rivers. After a month, Linfeng's state of mind had become closer to nature and more peaceful, but he had gained almost nothing. But he was not in a hurry. If he wanted to use the mixed laws, this step had to be taken. It could not be omitted, nor could it be rushed. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. Linfeng's temperament became more and more ethereal, as if he would fly away with the wind at any time, or turn into a gust of wind. His eyes became deeper, and his state of mind became more peaceful. His chin and nose were full of beard, and his hair had grown a lot longer. If he let it down, it would reach his shoulders. I keep feeling like I'm missing something, but what exactly is it? Linfeng had a look of doubt on his face. He looked at the vast expanse of white land, and took light steps, leaving deep footprints in the snow. Huang Wenbing had one hand on the hilt of the saber at his waist, and the other hand was naturally hanging down, as he followed Linfeng unhurriedly. He did not know what Linfeng had gained, but in any case, he did not gain anything at all. If not for Linfeng's insistence on walking through the uninhabited wilderness, he would have turned and left long ago. He had not seen a single person for a few months, not even a fish or a bird, and his heart was filled with anxiety. Day after day, the two figures shuttled through the vast expanse of white land. Linfeng had a feeling that he was getting closer and closer to the answer. There was only a thin layer separating him, and as long as he pierced through this layer, he would gain something. But he was still unable to grasp the main point, and this made him extremely puzzled, wondering where the problem was. The two's pace became slower and slower, but they were getting closer and closer to the imperial capital of the great Qin Empire. Winter passed, and spring came. The cold wind was biting cold, and the spring breeze was gentle. A new cycle had begun. Unknowingly, the withered grass on the ground once again revealed its elegance, and the branches were decorated with traces of green. The sounds of birds, beasts, and insects began to appear again. The ice on the surface of the river melted, and fish floated to the surface of the water. Everything was so beautiful that one could not help but praise the wonders of nature. On this day, Linfeng and Huang Wenbing climbed up a tall mountain once more. When they looked down from the peak of this tall mountain, the surrounding scenery was within their field of vision. The originally pure white land had already been replaced by traces of green, and the deathly silence had been replaced by the bustling sounds of birds, beasts, and insects. A gentle breeze blew, and the entire land burst forth with boundless vitality and boundless enthusiasm. It formed a sharp contrast with the scene of winter from before. This extreme contrast was inconceivable, yet it happened to be extremely natural and didn't have the slightest feeling of being out of place. Linfeng's field of vision was an expanse of green that was exuberant with vitality, yet his mind was filled with the deathly silence of winter that caused despair and pure white snow. This caused him to be unable to help but sigh with emotion. What a miraculous land! Before Huang Wenbing could reply, Linfeng suddenly opened his eyes wide, and it seemed as if a barrier in his mind had shattered with a crack. So that's how it is, that's how it is. Linfeng suddenly roared with laughter. I understand now. Rebirth, this is true rebirth. Nature's rebirth. Huang Wenbing didn't realize what was going on yet. He scratched his head like a monk and asked in confusion, "Boss, what have you understood?" Lin Feng stopped laughing and continued looking at the vigorous land down below with a smile in his eyes. "Boss, you've perceived the mixed law?" Huang Wenbing's eyes bulged. However, Lin Feng shook his head and said, "No. I haven't perceived anything about the mixed law yet." Huang Wenbing was confused. "Then, what did you mean by what you said just now?" He. "Although it's not about the mixed law, it's still a pleasant surprise." Lin Feng smiled and said, "I've grasped the trick to advance into a 6-star refiner." After saying those words, Zhang Xian pondered for a moment before continuing, "Every 6-star blacksmith has their own signature technique. Since this technique of mine is derived from nature, it shouldn't be too bad. Since that's the case, let's name it Nirvana then." Rebirth. This was Lin Feng's personal skill to advance into a 6-star refiner. As the saying went, a well-planted flower never blooms, but a well-planted willow grows. Lin Feng had been focusing his attention on the mixed law all the time. He didn't expect that he would perceive the personal skill to advance into a 6-star refiner. Although he didn't achieve his ultimate goal, it was still a pleasant surprise. Any 5-star refiner would be able to advance into a 6-star refiner as long as they perceived a personal skill other than the basic skills. Lin Feng, on the other hand, was now a 6-star refiner, also known as a Grandmaster refiner. From today onwards, Lin Feng had finally reached the pinnacle of blacksmiths, the true pinnacle. Behind his name, there would be another word: Grandmaster. Grandmaster Lin Feng. 6-star refiner. Huang Wenbing's eyes, which had been round in the first place, widened even more. "You've advanced into a 6-star refiner?" Lin Feng smiled. "You can say that." Huang Wenbing couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. "Hiss!" He pointed at Lin Feng, his finger trembling. He was so shocked that he couldn't speak. This sudden news was even more shocking and impactful than the fact that Lin Feng had comprehended the utilization of the hybrid laws of nature. A 6-star refiner in his early 20s was already extremely shocking. If this 6-star refiner could refine a 3-pattern spirit armor when he was still a 5-star refiner, then the degree of shock would be dozens of times higher. If he could refine a 3-pattern spirit armor when he was a 5-star refiner, then now that he had advanced into a 6-star refiner, would he be able to refine the legendary Supreme King armor that had never been successfully refined before? Supreme King armor. That was something that even peak Supremes would go crazy for. Even the few giants who stood at the peak of this world, the elementary Earth Sage, couldn't turn a blind eye to it. Huang Wenbing took a deep, deep breath. His heartbeat became unprecedentedly fast, and his blood boiled uncontrollably. He knew that perhaps a great refiner that had never existed before had been born in front of him. This was a historical moment. He had witnessed the birth of this great miracle and the promotion of this great refiner. P.S. First update. Refiner VIP Group. 168605369 Refiner Group. 204276549. Chapter 332. Congratulations, boss. Huang Wenbing looked at Lin Feng with a serious expression. This time, he called Lin Feng boss willingly and sincerely. Only at this moment did he truly acknowledge Lin Feng as his boss. In the past, he was not completely convinced and always wanted to compete with Lin Feng. But when Lin Feng became a 6-star refiner, he was completely convinced. Nono was simply happy for Lin Feng and said happily, "Boss, you are so awesome." Looking at the history of the Xingfeng Plain, boss is worthy of the title of the #1 refiner. It's perfectly justifiable, and no one can deny it. Lin Feng looked at the man and bird who were even more excited than him and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Don't flatter me. It's fine if others say it, but if we say it ourselves it's too arrogant. Huang Wenbing suddenly understood. Yes, we don't say it. Let others say it. Nono smiled. Little Bingbing, you are finally right for once. Huang Wenbing was already used to Nono's teasing, or it could be said that he was numb to it. He accepted the title of Little Bingbing and ignored it. He turned to Lin Feng and said, Boss, since you have become a 6-star refiner, let's go to the city to celebrate. The imperial capital of the Great Qin Empire is just ahead. If we don't go and see the imperial capital of the Great Qin Empire, we will have some regret. I think you want to go to the city to eat, right? Lin Feng scolded with a smile. When did you get Nono's bad habit and become so gluttonous? Nono immediately protested. Why do you say it's my bad habit? I am not gluttonous at all. Lin Feng looked at Nono with a faint smile. After staring at each other for a long time, Nono admitted defeat and said weakly, All right, I am a little gluttonous, but that is a bad habit I got in the despair prison. Besides, he is much more gluttonous than me. It spread its wings and pointed at Huang Wenbing. In the end, Lin Feng could not resist the pleas of the man and the bird, and he agreed to go with them to the Great Qin imperial capital, Xianchun City. Time passed slowly. Their figures continued to approach Salty City. Spring returned to the land, and the greenery grew thicker with each passing day. Everything burst forth with greater enthusiasm. Even the air was refreshing, making one feel refreshed. About 10 days later, they finally arrived at Xiandan City. Xianshan City. This was a city that was even more prosperous and lively than the capital of Zhao. Perhaps it was not as old as the capital of Zhao, but it lacked the aura of vicissitudes, but it had a heavier feeling. As soon as he approached this place, he could faintly smell a murderous aura. The guards outside the city were strict and imposing. The soldiers had cold expressions and dark skin. They were arranged in an orderly manner and strictly guarded the city gate, and they were rather iron-blooded. This was Great Qin's political, economic, and military center. There were many experts gathered here, and the number of experts here was 30% more than the state of Zhao's capital. Of course, many super-experts from all over the world had gathered in the state of Zhao. In the entire Xingfeng Plain, there was probably no place with more experts than the state of Zhao. The three of them had just walked not far from the city gate when a cry of surprise suddenly sounded from behind them. Careful! As soon as they turned their heads, they saw a savage horse galloping over. No, that wasn't a savage horse, but a rare Fergana colt. Fergana colts could be considered as low-level demonic beasts. They were extremely rare, and were rare even in the entire Azurewood continent. In addition, their speed was 5 times faster than ordinary savage horses, and their endurance was tens of times more than ordinary savage horses. They could be said to be a truly good colt. In front of the Fergana colt, there just happened to be 2 children and a woman around the age of 10. However, the Fergana colt's speed was too fast, and it seemed to have lost control. The Fergana colt's owner was actually unable to stop it, and it directly crashed into the 2 children and the woman. If this collision were to happen, the fate of these 3 innocent people could be imagined. Why do I feel that this scene is so familiar? A trace of helplessness appeared on Lin Feng's face. Last time it was a carriage. This time it was a Fergana colt. Last time it was a young man and a 2 or 3-year-old child. This time it was a woman and 2 children around the age of 10. Moreover, it had all happened outside the city gate, and they were all in Great Qin. Could it be that there were so many accidents in Great Qin? The traffic in Great Qin was truly worrying. Lin Feng shook his head and sighed. He waved his hand, and a wave of origin energy flew out, instantly enveloping the woman and the 2 children. He used a gentle force to gently push them to the side. Immediately after, he waved his hand again and imprisoned the Fergana colt. The young man on the Fergana colt was affected by the huge inertia and directly flew out from the colt's back. Fortunately, his skills were not bad. He somersaulted a few times in the air and safely landed on the ground. Although his landing posture was a bit embarrassing, at least he wasn't injured, and the box in his hand was also fine. The young man didn't care about his Fergana colt. Instead, he carried the box in one hand and quickly rushed towards the woman and the two children. He stopped in front of the three people, gasping for breath, and had an apologetic expression on his face. "I'm sorry, old lady. I'm really sorry. Just now, I don't know why, but my Fergana colt suddenly didn't listen to me. I unintentionally offended you and almost caused you to be injured. I'm really sorry." It seemed that he was also very nervous. His words were incoherent, and his face was full of shame. At this moment, the sound of horse hooves came from behind the Fergana colt. More than 10 strong men rushed over on their horses. However, they quickly stopped, dismounted, and galloped over, stopping beside the young man. "Fu Xing, Rong Ruo, you two quickly take the old lady and her children to the medical center to see if they have any injuries." The young man immediately gave the order to the two people beside him, and then said to the old lady, "Old lady, you take the two children and follow them to the medical center. Don't worry, I'll take care of all the expenses. In addition, these soul stones are my compensation for frightening you and your children. I'm really sorry." After quickly dealing with this matter, the young man breathed a sigh of relief. He quickly walked towards Lin Feng and Rong Ruo and shouted, "Wait." Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing stopped in their tracks. The young man came to the two people's side, bowed and cupped his hand. Thank you, sir, for helping to resolve this crisis." He had just clearly seen how Lin Feng pushed the woman and the children out with a wave of his hand, and with another wave of his hand, fixed his Fergana colt in place. This could be considered as teaching him a lesson. Whether it was because Lin Feng had helped him, or because of Lin Feng's unpredictable means, he was worthy of his respect. Lin Feng calmly waved his hand. "No need to be polite. It was just a slight effort." "No matter what, sir, you've done me a great favor. I must repay you." The young man seemed to be someone with obsessive-compulsive disorder. "It seems like it's the first time the two sirs have come to Xianzhan City. Presumably, you're not familiar with Xianzhan City. How about this, I'll send someone to follow the two sirs. I'll be responsible for all your expenses in Xianzhan City. Moreover, my subordinate is very familiar with Xianzhan City. He can also be a guide and show the two sirs the local conditions and customs of our Xianzhan City." Listening to him talk a lot, Lin Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Just as he was about to refuse, the young man seemed to have expected it and said first, "I hope sir won't refuse. Otherwise, Ing Pan will feel guilty and won't be able to eat or sleep in peace." He had already said it to this extent. How could Lin Feng refuse? "All right, then I'll have to trouble this young master." Lin Feng nodded. Ing Pan said again, "Sirs, I still have urgent matters to attend to, so I won't accompany the two of you." It seemed that he really did have urgent matters, and his tone also gave people the feeling of being in a hurry. After speaking, he turned to a young man holding a thin sword and said, "Lian Ji, you heard what I said just now. You must listen to the two sirs' instructions, understand?" This subordinate obeys. The slightly thin young man knelt on one knee. Then Ing Pan hurriedly bid farewell and left, leaving only Lian Ji to follow Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing. "This guy seems to have an extraordinary identity," Huang Wenbing said in surprise. Lian Ji said respectfully, "Our family's young master is the 6th son of the great Qin Emperor, 6th young master Ing Pan, also known as young master Pan." His words were full of pride and respect. It could be seen that this young master Pan was very popular. At least, his subordinates were very loyal to him. Hearing this, Huang Wenbing was immediately amused. "It seems that we and the great Qin prince are really fated. First came the 7th young master, Then came the sixth young master. Tsk. Later will there be some fifth young master, fourth young master, eldest young master, and so on? His tone was very relaxed, as if he didn't care about these princes at all. Lin Feng smiled faintly. No wonder he could guess that we are newcomers. The reason is that we didn't recognize him at first glance. Lian Ji pretended not to hear these words. If such disrespectful words were to spread to the ears of outsiders, it would probably cause a lot of trouble. But after all, they were young Master Pan's benefactors, so Lian Ji couldn't say anything. Sirs, may I ask if you are here for Jingyuan? Lian Ji asked curiously. Although there are still 3 days before Jingyuan's performance, I'm afraid that the rooms and outdoor seats in the Sad Wind Flower Stream have already been booked. So I'm afraid that you two sirs are a little late. Jingyuan? Lin Feng was slightly startled, then smiled and shook his head. You misunderstood. We are just passing by and wanted to experience the atmosphere of Xiandan City. Ah. Lian Ji was very surprised. You are not here for Jingyuan? Recently, there were a lot of foreigners in Xiandan City. There were even people from Zhao country and Han dynasty. So they weren't surprised by the arrival of foreigners. They knew that these people were here for Jingyuan, so they subconsciously thought that Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing were among them. Now that he heard that Lin Feng just wanted to experience the atmosphere of Xiandan City, Lian Ji was naturally very surprised. He even suspected that Lin Feng and Jingyuan lied to him to save face when they heard that there were no seats available. Seeing Lian Ji so surprised and even a little suspicious in his eyes, Huang Wenbing was also interested. He asked with great interest, Who is this Jingyuan? Why are you so sure that we are here for her? Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing still didn't know that the woman in the carriage that they met at the east gate of Dan City was the Jingyuan that everyone was talking about. Hearing Huang Wenbing's question, Lian Ji was even more surprised. He looked at Huang Wenbing as if he was looking at a monster. You have never heard of Jingyuan? P.S. Second update. Chapter 333. What's so strange about not having heard of Jingyuan? Huang Wenbing was even more puzzled. Could it be that this Jingyuan was very famous? But a few months ago, when they were in the capital of Zhao, they had never heard of Jingyuan. Seeing that Huang Wenbing really didn't know, Lian Ji explained in detail, If we want to talk about Jingyuan, we need to start from 5 months ago. 5 months ago, the Supremes of the Eternal Continent completely occupied the Han dynasty, enslaving all the people and forces of the Han dynasty. A large number of humans were massacred, and it could be said that rivers of blood flowed and mountains of corpses covered the land. Later, Dean Lin of Qingfeng College of Zhao Country returned with dozens of Supremes. In one fell swoop, they defeated the Supremes of the Eternal Continent and killed all the enemies of the Greenwood Continent. At this point, Lian Ji's eyes couldn't help but reveal a hint of fanaticism. Clearly, that Dean Lin who possessed remarkable abilities had a supreme position in his heart. In fact, it wasn't just him. The people of the Greenwood Continent already knew of Dean Lin's existence. They also knew that it was Dean Lin who led dozens of Supremes to wipe out the Eternal Continent's Supremes and completely eliminate the threat from the Eternal Continent. The mysterious Dean Lin had become a hero in the hearts of the people of the world, an indomitable hero who saved the continent from danger. Huang Wenbing looked at Lin Feng and secretly gave him a thumbs up. Lin Feng still looked at Lian Ji indifferently, ignoring Huang Wenbing's little actions. This Jingyuan suddenly appeared on the walls of the Han dynasty's capital not long after Dean Lin and the Supremes he brought with him killed all the Supremes of the Eternal Continent. Lian Ji's expression gradually became serious. No one knew who she was, and no one knew where she came from. People only knew that she held the 7-stringed zither of the crouching dragon and descended like a fairy. Without any warning, she plucked the strings and played a celestial melody, soothing the people's pain. The sound of the zither was like a celestial melody, intoxicating almost all the people of the Han dynasty. Many of them broke through on the spot. The closer they were to the zither, the more people broke through. Because of this song, Jing Yuren became famous everywhere. Lin Feng said in surprise, "There's actually such a miraculous thing. If this was true, then this Jing Yuren really couldn't be underestimated. Playing a song can make the listener break through their cultivation base? Is it really that mystical?" Huang Wenbing was rather doubtful. Even if it was the real celestial music, it wouldn't have such an effect, right? Lien Zhu said seriously, "Sir, this is true." Huang Wenbing asked, "Why are you so sure?" "Because Jing Yu's people appeared in Dan City a few months ago. Dan City is densely populated. Most of the people migrated from the setting sun plains or places close to the setting sun plains. Some of them are survivors whose homes were destroyed by the sovereigns of the Eternal Continent. It can be said that Dan City is a refugee camp for the Great Qin Empire." A few days after Jing Yuren went to Dan City, she played another song. This song helped many people break through their current cultivation levels. The mages, in particular, would benefit the most. Out of the 10 who broke through, 9 of them were mages. Lien Shi was extremely envious. This is the news that young Master Pan and I personally went to Dan City to inquire about. If that's the case, then that Jing Yuren really has some tricks up her sleeves. Lin Feng's expression turned serious. If Lien Shi's words were true, then this Jing Yuren's cultivation base was probably unfathomable. Huang Wenbing said, "Boss, why don't we go and meet that Jing Yuren and see what's so special about her?" Nono also chimed in, "Yes, yes, yes. Boss, let's go and have a look." They just wanted to satisfy their curiosity. Of course, if Jing Yuren was really that mystical, they also hoped to gain something from her zither music. Even if they couldn't break through their current cultivation levels, it would still be a good thing for their cultivation base to increase a little. However, they didn't know if Jing Yuren's zither music would have any effect on sovereigns. Lien Shi smiled bitterly and said, "I'm afraid this will be a little difficult." "What's the problem?" Huang Wenbing raised his eyebrows. Lien Shi quickly explained that Jing Yuren has confirmed that she will play at the Sorrowful Wind Flowery Stream, but the rooms and the open-air area of the Sorrowful Wind Flowery Stream have already been booked and can't accommodate anyone else. Even our young Master Pan wasn't able to book a seat in the open-air area. In the end, he could only rent the backyard of a blacksmith shop opposite the Sorrowful Wind Flowery Stream. He wanted to say something but stopped. In the end, he didn't continue. However, Huang Wenbing understood what he meant. He obviously thought that they didn't have the ability to get a place from others. "I thought it was something else. So it's this problem." Huang Wenbing didn't care. "Don't worry, as long as we are willing, just a few places." Before he could finish, Lin Feng coughed and interrupted Huang Wenbing, reminding him, "Wenbing." Huang Wenbing glanced at Lin Feng and finally swallowed the words he wanted to say. Lin Feng cupped his hands to Lien Shi and said, "We don't need to enter the Sorrowful Wind Flowery Stream, as long as we can listen to the zither music near the Sorrowful Wind Flowery Stream. Is there any problem?" Lien Shi quickly bowed and said, "If the two of you don't mind, you can stay in the backyard of the blacksmith shop rented by young Master Pan. However, there are often clanking sounds coming from the blacksmith shop. I'm afraid it will disturb the two of you. Then let's go there." Lin Feng thought for a moment. "We'll have to trouble you." If he remembered correctly, Lien Shi should have said that Jing Yuren's performance should only last for 3 days. He could afford to wait. But if it took longer, then he could only say goodbye regretfully. "No trouble, no trouble." Lien Shi hurriedly moved away and led the way. Lien Shi secretly muttered in his heart, "And you said you didn't come for Jing Yuren." However, he didn't dare to say it out loud. After entering the city, Lian Shi directly led Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing to a blacksmith shop opposite the Sorrowful Wind flowery stream. Lord Lian Shi. The blacksmith shop staff saw Lian Shi and called out respectfully. Soon, the shopkeeper came out and respectfully said, Lord Lian Shi. Lian Shi nodded and said, These two lords beside me are young Master Pan's guests. They will be staying here for the next few days. You must not offend the two lords. Otherwise, if young Master Pan gets angry, even I can't protect you. Hearing Lian Shi call Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing lords, the shopkeeper's face suddenly turned cold. He turned to look at Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing, bowing his head and waist even lower, and said very respectfully, This commoner Fu Shou Quan greets the two lords. Shopkeeper doesn't need to be so polite. Lin Feng waved his hand. I've been nagging you for a few days, please forgive me. After entering the blacksmith shop, a clanking sound came from inside. Although the sound was very rough and noisy, Lin Feng's face showed a look of enjoyment, and he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. How long has it been since I heard the sound of iron being forged? He was a blacksmith master, but he was once a blacksmith apprentice, a blacksmith and a craftsman. The sound of iron being forged instantly evoked his distant memories. Although only a few years had passed, those scenes were still vivid in his mind, as if it had happened yesterday. In the blink of an eye, the vicissitudes of life had changed, and he had become a true 6-star blacksmith. Forging was getting farther and farther away from him. But he still missed it, missed the years when he improved little by little, missed the days when his father taught him how to forge. At this time, he even felt a little itchy and couldn't help but want to forge a few weapons, but he resisted in the end. Sir, are you also interested in forging? Shopkeeper Fu Shou Quan asked tentatively. Lin Feng let out a long sigh. I'm not just interested. I used to be a blacksmith too. Huang Wenbing laughed in his heart. This shopkeeper is actually talking about forging in front of the world's #1 blacksmith. He didn't know what to say about this shopkeeper. In short, he wanted to laugh, but in front of Lin Feng, he had to hold it in, so his facial muscles were twitching, and it was very difficult for him to hold it in. Fu Shou Quan didn't think much about it, and led the two into the backyard, and pointed to the two rooms. The rooms are a little simple, I hope the two sirs don't mind. Lin Feng smiled. As long as it can be lived in, everything else is fine. He had even lived in a blacksmith apprentice's room. How could this room be worse than a blacksmith apprentice's room? What's more, at their level of cultivation, very few people would care about these problems. Shopkeeper Zhang has something to discuss with you. A voice came from outside. Fu Shou Quan said apologetically to Lin Feng and Huang Wenbing. I'm sorry, sirs, I still have something to deal with, so I can't accompany the two of you any longer. I hope the two sirs can forgive me. In the outer courtyard of the blacksmith shop, in the area where armor and protective equipment were sold, a middle-aged man in luxurious clothes smiled. Shopkeeper Fu, what do you think of the matter I told you yesterday? Fu Shou Quan frowned slightly and said awkwardly, Shopkeeper Zhang, I already said clearly yesterday, it's not that I don't want to agree, but that my backyard has been rented by young Master Pan a few days ago. Not to mention that young Master Pan's rent is very generous, even if the rent is very little. Since I've already promised young Master Pan, there's no reason for me to unilaterally break the contract. The middle-aged shopkeeper surnamed Zhang narrowed his eyes. It seems that shopkeeper Fu refuses a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Shopkeeper Zhang, what do you mean? Fu Shou Quan's face sank. I'm not afraid to tell you that the person who asked me to rent the backyard of your blacksmith shop is the 7th young master. Shopkeeper Zhang said indifferently, You should know the 7th young master's character very well. If you go against his will, I'm afraid that in the future. Although he said that, the hidden threat was obvious. Fu Shou Quan's face changed instantly. The 7th young master. Of course, He knew that although the seventh young master's position was not as high as young Master Pan, the seventh young master's character was vengeful. Anyone who offended the seventh young master would not have a good ending. If it was just the seventh young master alone, he would not be afraid. With young Master Pan behind him, there was no need for him to be afraid at all. But the problem was that although the seventh young master's position was not as high as young Master Pan, the seventh young master's blood brother was the first prince, who was also the current crown prince of the great Qin Empire. Offending the seventh young master was equivalent to offending the crown prince. Even if young Master Pan was in front of him, it would be of no help. The current crown prince was a genius who attracted a lot of attention. His master was a mid-level supreme martial artist, Meng Tian. At the age of 29, he already had the cultivation of a fifth-stage earth magician, and even reached the level of a 5-star weapon refiner. However, the crown prince had an even more legendary identity. That was the champion of the Young Masters Tournament Final. That's right, the Crown Prince was the champion of the Young Masters Tournament Final that Lin Feng participated in. P.S. First update. Weapon Refiner VIP Group. 168605329 Weapon Refiner VIP Group. 204276549. Chapter 334. Unfortunately, Lian Shi had left. If she was here, shopkeeper Zhang would not dare to be so arrogant. In the end, shopkeeper Zhang was just a bully. If seventh young master Ing Hai didn't back him up, and if Fu Shouchuan's blacksmith shop had a 5-star blacksmith master, then shopkeeper Zhang wouldn't dare to offend Fu Shouchuan. However, if there was really a 5-star weapon refiner in charge, then the blacksmith shop would no longer be a blacksmith shop, but an authentic weapon refining pavilion. Any weapon refining pavilion would have an extremely high status, and ordinary people would not dare to touch it. The Crown Prince should not condescend to deal with a small character like me, right? Fu Shouquan hesitated. This was the sorrow of a small character. Sometimes, although you want to stick to your principles, under the pressure of the outside world, you have to go with the flow. Fu Shouquan took a deep breath. A man without integrity is worthless. Shopkeeper Zhang, you don't have to say any more. Since my backyard has been rented to young Master Pan, I will not rent it to a second person before young Master Pan speaks. Shopkeeper Fu, you have to think clearly. Shopkeeper Zhang's voice became colder. Fu Shouquan said in a deep voice, I have thought very clearly. Ha 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 ha. Shopkeeper Zhang suddenly laughed. Fu Shouquan, I have given you a chance, but you don't know how to cherish it. Since you have made a stupid choice, you have to accept the corresponding consequences. Hearing this, Fu Shouquan's face changed greatly. Without waiting for Fu Shouquan to speak, shopkeeper Zhang suddenly took a few steps back and waved his hand. Smash it for me. With a single order, a group of people suddenly rushed in from outside the door. All of them were tall and sturdy, and the two in the lead were even earth warriors of the 8th step. Bang! Pa! Boom! After a group of people rushed in, they smashed everything and hit anyone they saw. However, they were very careful. Although they injured the blacksmith shop's people, they did not hurt their foundation. They just made them lose their fighting strength for a short time. You guys stop. Stop. Fu Shouquan was angry and anxious. He never expected that shopkeeper Zhang would bring 2 rank 8 earth warriors. Under the impact of these 2 rank 8 earth warriors, the blacksmith shop's people did not have the strength to fight back. After being hit by a punch, they fell to the ground and screamed in pain. Stop? Ha! Ha! Manager Zhang laughed loudly and said, since they've already made a move, they won't easily stop. Unless they are done venting, no one can stop them. In his heart, he was extremely pleased. The 2 lords sent by the 7th young master are indeed powerful. There are so many people in the gold lacquer blacksmith shop, but none of them are their match. If it weren't for the seventh young master sending 2 experts to help him, he really wouldn't have easily started a war with Fushoquan. Soon, more than half of the people in the smithy were lying on the ground, wailing in agony. The shelves that held weapons, protective gear, and other items were smashed into pieces. Even some of the cruder weapons were chopped into pieces. Some furnaces were kicked over. The bellows, wheel fans, and other tools were also messed up. Many of them were damaged. In short, the entire blacksmith shop looked as if it had been ransacked by bandits. There were barely any places left intact. You will suffer retribution, you will suffer retribution. Fushoquan's finger trembled as he pointed at Manager Zhang. He was so angry that his face was ashen and he almost fainted. Retribution? Manager Zhang curled his lips. Only the weak will say these 2 words. Inside the blacksmith shop, a group of people were still destroying it. Even the last bit of the place was about to be destroyed. However, at this moment, a voice sounded in the blacksmith shop. Scram! This voice was extremely loud, so that everyone present could hear it clearly. Everyone stopped what they were doing. One of the earth warriors of the 8th step coldly shouted, "Who is playing tricks here? Hurry up and get out of here." Another earth warrior of the 8th step also had a cold expression as he shouted loudly. Manager Zhang and the group of blacksmith shop employees who had been beaten looked at each other in dismay. At this time, a young man slowly walked into the outer courtyard of the blacksmith shop from the entrance of the backyard. He faintly looked at the earth warrior of the 8th step who had spoken last. "You just said," without waiting for the man to answer, the young man took a few steps closer. His eyes narrowed. "You really have guts, actually calling yourself lousy in front of me. Brat, you're courting death." Before the earth warrior of the 8th step could finish his words, he let out a miserable scream and flew out like a cannonball. He flew out of the door of the blacksmith shop and hit the wall of the opposite house. The moment he fell to the ground, the earth warrior of the 8th step spat out a mouthful of blood, his head tilted, and he fainted. Everyone's mouths were wide open. "What about you?" The young man turned to look at the other earth warrior of the 8th step. "Do you also want to call yourself lousy?" The earth warrior of the 8th step swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He was both afraid and fearful. He had no choice but to bring out the name of the 7th young master. "Your Excellency, it's best not to meddle in other people's business. This is what the 7th young master ordered us to do. If you attack us, it's equivalent to offending the 7th young master. You must know that the current crown prince is the 7th young master's brother." Before he could finish, the young man frowned impatiently. "I asked you if you also want to call yourself lousy. I'm not here to listen to your nonsense." The earth warrior of the 8th step wanted to say lousy, but with the example of his companion, he didn't dare to say those 2 words. He clenched his fists, suppressed the anger in his heart, and said, "I don't dare." Then scram. The young man waved his hand impatiently, as if he was driving away a dog. "Scram, hurry up and scram." "You! What, still not scram? Do you want me to personally send you out?" The young man casually raised his head, a dangerous light flashing in his eyes. "This time, I'll spare your dog lives for the time being. Don't harass us in the future. If there's a next time, hee." He grinned. "I don't mind talking to your 7th young master about life, about ideals, and teaching him how to be a man in his next life." The young master of the Huang family, one of the 8 great clans in the alliance, was also a supreme genius. No one dared to say anything about killing a little prince of a small secular empire. After that, he took a deep look at shopkeeper Zhang. "And you, don't let me see you here in the future." The arrogance of shopkeeper Zhang and the earth warrior of the 8th step was instantly suppressed. In the face of this mysterious expert, they really didn't have the courage to talk back. Shopkeeper Fu, you're amazing. Shopkeeper Zhang left a meaningful sentence, turned around and left. When he came, he was aggressive, but when he left, he was like a stray dog. He probably didn't expect such a result, right? The Earth Warrior of the 8th step and the rest of his subordinates also left the blacksmith shop one after another. Fu Shouquan bowed deeply to Huang Wenbing and said gratefully, "Thank you for your help, my lord." The employees of the blacksmith shop also stood up and bowed to Huang Wenbing. "Thank you, my lord." They never thought that the strength of this young man was so terrifying that even the Earth Warrior of the 8th step couldn't withstand his punch. To be able to seriously injure the Earth Warrior of the 8th step with one punch, undoubtedly, only a 9th step expert could do it. 9th step. This young man who looked to be only in his 20s was actually a 9th step expert. Huang Wenbing waved his hand indifferently and said, "If you want to thank me, thank my boss. Don't thank me." He pointed to the backyard. "If it weren't for my boss's orders, I wouldn't have bothered to do it. Is it more important than my sleep?" Everyone was instantly petrified, and their foreheads were filled with black lines. Huang Wenbing stretched, yawned, and turned to the backyard. "You can solve the rest of the matter by yourselves. I'm going to sleep first." He hadn't had a good sleep for a few months, and he hadn't laid in a comfortable bed. He really missed it. After Huang Wenbing disappeared from the blacksmith shop, everyone slowly recovered. "Shopkeeper, did we hear wrongly? That lord just now seemed to call the lord inside boss?" "It should be, maybe, probably, maybe, I didn't hear wrongly, right? The boss of a 9th step expert, shoo! Keep your voice down, do you want to die?" Fu Shouquan said to the group of people with a dignified face. "All of you must remember, in the future, you are not allowed to talk about the two lords behind their backs. What happened today, you are not allowed to mention it in the future. In addition, in the future, you must be more respectful to the two lords. They are not only our benefactors, but also our protective talisman. We understand." Fu Shouquan waved his hand. "Okay, hurry up and clean up the blacksmith shop. If outsiders see our blacksmith shop in a mess, it will damage the reputation of the blacksmith shop." "Okay." Backyard. "It's settled?" Lin Feng asked calmly. "Yes, just a few small fish." Huang Wenbing nodded and then frowned. "But that Ing Hai is really annoying. I have already tolerated him once. I didn't expect that he would dare to provoke us again. Next time I meet him, even if he is the king of heaven, I will still destroy him." Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. "You'd better control your temper." Huang Wenbing shrugged. "Can't help it, I was born like this, can't change." "Up to you." Lin Feng didn't try to persuade him. In a large medical center at the intersection of Beifeng Street, shopkeeper Zhang was so angry that he was smashing things in the room. "I'm so angry, I'm so angry, I'm so angry." He violently vented the grievances in his heart. After a long time, he slowly calmed down, but his eyes flashed with a cold light. "Fu Shouquan, don't think that just because you invited a 9th stage powerhouse, I will be afraid of you. In this world, there is more than one 9th stage powerhouse in your blacksmith shop." A moment later, he walked out of the room and shouted, "Men, prepare the horse." "Yes. Master, where are we going?" "The young master's mansion." "Okay." The coachman received the order, and the wooden wheels of the carriage began to roll. Inside the carriage, shopkeeper Zhang's eyes narrowed into slits. He softly muttered, "I can't invite a 9th stage powerhouse, but that doesn't mean that the 7th young master can't. Even if the 7th young master can't, isn't there still the crown prince?" Refining VIP Group 16860-5329 Refining Ordinary Group 204276549. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.